There exists a truth that has been deliberately hidden from humanity for centuries. A truth so powerful that, when understood and applied, it can completely transform your life experience.
Ancient civilizations knew these principles. Spiritual masters taught them in secret. And now, through the convergence of quantum science and ancestral wisdom, these universal laws are being rediscovered. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are not trapped by patterns inherited from your parents or limited by past experiences. The truth is that you are a creator being operating through precise laws that govern the manifestation of reality. When you understand these laws and align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with them, you become a conscious co-creator of your experience. This audiobook reveals the 7 fundamental laws that govern the creation of reality, principles that have remained forgotten, not by chance, but because true knowledge has always been reserved for those ready to assume total responsibility for their lives. You will discover how your subconscious mind operates as a faithful servant, how your emotions are the fuel of manifestation, and how the quantum field responds to your most subtle vibrations. More than a book about manifestation, this is a journey of awakening. It is an invitation for you to remember who you truly are. A supernatural being temporarily pretending to be human, with the innate power to shape reality through directed consciousness. Chapter 1. The Awakening of the Forgotten Truth. Why these laws were hidden and how they govern your life at this very moment. The question that changes everything. What if I told you that everything you've been taught about reality is only half the story? What if the struggles you face, the limitations you accept, and the dreams that seem just out of reach aren't actually your destiny, but simply the result of operating with incomplete information about how life truly works? Right now, as you listen to these words, you are participating in the most extraordinary phenomenon in the universe, the conscious creation of reality. Every thought flowing through your mind, every emotion stirring in your heart, every belief held in your subconscious is actively shaping the world you experience. You are not a passive observer of your life. You are its primary architect. Yet most people live their entire lives unaware of this truth. They move through their days believing they are victims of circumstance, prisoners of their past, or at the mercy of forces beyond their control. This isn't their fault. This is the result of what I call the great forgetting, a collective amnesia about our true creative nature. But today, in this moment, your forgetting ends. The great concealment. Throughout history, there have always been those who understood the profound laws governing reality creation. Ancient Egyptian mystery schools taught these principles to initiated priests. The Hermetic traditions preserved them in coded texts. Indigenous shamans passed them down through sacred ceremonies. Christian mystics wrote about them in metaphorical language to avoid persecution. These weren't abstract philosophical concepts. They were practical technologies of consciousness. The builders of the pyramids understood them. The architects of great civilizations applied them. The healers who performed miracles operated through them. So why don't we learn these principles in school? Why aren't they common knowledge? The answer is both simple and profound. Because true power has always been jealously guarded by those who benefit from others remaining powerless. When people understand their inherent creative abilities, they stop being controllable. They stop accepting limitations that serve others' agendas. They begin to question systems that keep them small. But there's another reason these laws were concealed. One that might surprise you. They were hidden because most people, throughout most of history, weren't ready for the responsibility that comes with this knowledge. You see, when you truly understand how reality works, You can never again blame external circumstances for your life experience. You become 100% responsible for everything, and that level of accountability terrifies most people. The two types of creators. Every human being is creating their reality every moment of every day. But there are two distinct types of creators in this world: conscious creators and unconscious creators. Unconscious creators, which represent about 95% of the population, create through default programming. They inherited most of their beliefs from their parents, who inherited them from their parents, creating generational cycles of limitation. They react to life rather than respond to it. Their emotions are triggered by external events, and those emotional states perpetuate more experiences that match their frequency. These unconscious creators often feel like life is happening to them. They use phrases like, "I can't help how I feel," or "that's just the way things are," or "I'm not lucky like other people." They create through victim consciousness, scarcity thinking, and fear-based decision-making. And because the universe is an impeccably fair system, it gives them exactly what they're vibrationally asking for: more experiences of being a victim, more scarcity, and more things to fear. Conscious creators, on the other hand, understand that they are always at choice. They recognize that while they cannot control every external event, they have complete authority over their internal response. And they know that this internal response is what actually creates their external experience. Conscious creators have learned to observe their thoughts without being enslaved by them. They feel their emotions fully, but don't let those emotions dictate their actions. They understand that their point of power is always in the present moment, regardless of what happened in the past or what they want to create in the future. Most importantly, conscious creators take full responsibility for their life experience. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's about reclaiming their creative power. When you realize that you are the common denominator in every experience you've ever had, you simultaneously realize that you have the power to change any experience you're having. The scientific revolution that changes everything. For centuries, the materialist worldview dominated human thinking. We believed that consciousness emerged from matter, that our brains created our minds, that thoughts were merely chemical reactions, and that we were biological machines operating in a mechanical universe. But quantum physics has shattered this limited perspective. We now know that consciousness doesn't emerge from matter. Consciousness shapes matter. The observer effect in quantum mechanics proves that the act of conscious observation literally affects physical reality at the subatomic level. Dr. Joe Dispenza's groundbreaking research has shown that when people change their thoughts and emotions consistently, they can alter their gene expression, rebuild their neural networks, and even heal their bodies of diseases that were considered incurable. This isn't magic. It's the natural result of consciousness, operating according to universal laws that most people simply don't understand yet. Neuroscientist Dr. Rick Hansen has demonstrated that our brains are constantly being reshaped by our experiences, a phenomenon called neuroplasticity. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with that thought. Every time you feel an emotion, you condition your body to expect more of that emotional state. This means you are literally sculpting your brain, and therefore your future experiences, with every mental and emotional choice you make. You are not stuck with the brain you were born with. You are not limited by your past conditioning. You have the power to rewire yourself at the neurological level. But here's what the scientific community hasn't fully grasped yet. These individual transformations create ripples in the collective field of consciousness. When enough people operate from higher states of awareness, They begin to influence the shared reality we all experience. This is why periods of great awakening throughout history always seem to happen simultaneously across different cultures and continents. Your invitation to remember right now, as you listen to these words, something is stirring within you. It's not new information you're receiving. It's ancient wisdom you're remembering. Deep in your cellular memory, beyond your conscious thoughts, your true self recognizes these truths. You chose to be here at this time in history because you knew this great awakening was coming. You knew that humanity would need conscious creators to help birth a new era of possibility. You volunteered to be part of the solution. But first, you had to forget. You had to experience limitation so you could appreciate freedom. You had to know powerlessness so you could value your creative abilities. You had to feel separate so you could remember unity. Your forgetting was never permanent. It was preparation. Every challenge you've faced, every limitation you've experienced, every moment you felt stuck or frustrated was actually strengthening your desire for something greater. That desire is your inner guidance system calling you home to your true nature. The 7 laws you're about to discover aren't just concepts to understand intellectually. They are living principles that want to express through you. They are the operating system of the universe, and you have been designed to run on this system perfectly. Some of these laws will feel familiar because you've been using them unconsciously your entire life. Others might challenge everything you think you know about how reality works. All of them will empower you to create changes in your life that currently seem impossible. The moment your life changes forever. There is a moment in every person's journey when they move from hoping things will change to knowing they have the power to change them. That moment isn't in some distant future when you've mastered every technique or understood every principle. That moment is available to you right now. It happens the instant you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and start recognizing yourself as the creator of your experiences. It happens when you shift from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to asking, "What is this teaching me, and how can I use it to grow?" This shift in perspective is more than psychological. It's energetic. When you truly accept your creative power, your entire electromagnetic field changes. Your heart starts beating in coherent patterns. Your brain waves shift into states associated with heightened intuition and expanded awareness. Your cellular structure begins responding to new information. The universe notices this shift immediately. When you stop vibrating as a victim, you stop attracting experiences that require you to be rescued. When you stop vibrating in scarcity, you stop creating evidence of not having enough. When you stop vibrating in fear, you stop magnetizing things to be afraid of. Instead, you begin attracting opportunities, resources, relationships, and experiences that match your new energetic signature. This isn't positive thinking or wishful dreaming. It's physics, like attracts like, at the quantum level. But here's the key. This transformation requires more than intellectual understanding. You must embody these principles. You must become a living demonstration of these laws. You must practice them so consistently that operating as a conscious creator becomes your natural state. As you continue through the remaining chapters, remember that you're not just learning new information. You're remembering who you've always been. You're not developing new abilities. You're accessing capacities that have been dormant within you since birth. The forgotten laws are forgotten no more. Your awakening has begun. Take a deep breath and feel the truth of these words settling into your cells. You are far more powerful than you have ever imagined, and your journey into conscious creation starts now. Chapter 2. The First Law. The law of the creative mind, how your thoughts are seeds in the fertile field of universal consciousness. The most powerful force in your universe, your mind, is not what you think it is. It's not the chattering voice in your head that narrates your daily experience. It's not the analyzer that judges every situation, or the worrier that catastrophizes about the future. Those are merely surface functions of a far more extraordinary creative instrument. Your mind is a broadcasting station that transmits signals into the quantum field every moment of your existence. Every thought you think sends out a specific frequency that the universe receives and responds to with mathematical precision. The law of the creative mind states that your thoughts are not private events happening inside your skull. They are creative commands being issued to the organizing intelligence that governs all of reality. But here's what most people don't understand. There are two distinct levels of mind operating within you right now, and only one of them has the power to create lasting change in your life. The first is your conscious mind, the 5% that thinks, analyzes, and makes decisions. The second is your subconscious mind, the 95% that runs your body, stores your memories, and executes the programs that shape your daily experience. Most people spend their entire lives trying to create change through conscious effort alone, which is like trying to steer a massive ship with a tiny rudder while ignoring the powerful engine running below deck. Today, you're going to learn how to align both levels of your mind so they work together as the unified, creative force you were designed to be. The servant that rules your life. Imagine you inherited a faithful servant who has been working for your family for generations. This servant never questions your commands, never takes a day off, and executes every instruction you give with absolute precision. There's just one catch. This servant can't distinguish between what you want and what you don't want. It simply carries out whatever program it's been given, whether that program serves you or sabotages you. This is your subconscious mind. From the moment you were conceived until approximately age 7, your subconscious mind operated like a supercomputer downloading programs. It absorbed every repeated thought, emotion, and behavior pattern from your environment without any conscious filtering. Your parents' beliefs about money became your financial programming. Their relationship patterns became your relationship blueprints. Their fears became your survival strategies. By age 7, you had downloaded the basic operating system that would run your life. And most people never consciously update this software. They spend their adult years wondering why they keep attracting the same types of relationships, why money always seems to slip through their fingers, or why they sabotage themselves just when success seems within reach. The answer is simple. Their subconscious programs are running the show. Your subconscious mind controls 95% of your daily behavior. It manages your breathing, heartbeat, and cellular regeneration. It stores every memory you've ever had and every skill you've ever learned. It automatically responds to situations based on patterns it has observed and recorded. But most importantly, your subconscious mind is what actually manifests your reality. While your conscious mind sets intentions and makes plans, your subconscious mind is broadcasting the energetic signal that the quantum field responds to. If there's a conflict between what you consciously want and what your subconscious believes is possible or safe, your subconscious will win every time. This is why positive thinking alone doesn't create lasting change. You can consciously think, I am abundant all day long. But if your subconscious programming says money is scarce and hard to come by, that's the signal being broadcast to the universe. Your outer world will always reflect your inner programming, not your wishful thinking. The two minds that must become. One Zara came to one of my workshops carrying 15 years of frustration. She was a brilliant marketing executive who seemed to have everything together on the surface. But she couldn't understand why her relationships kept following the same destructive pattern. She would meet someone wonderful. Things would go well for a few months. Then she would unconsciously begin sabotaging the connection through jealousy, criticism, or emotional withdrawal. "I know I'm doing it," she told me. "I can see it happening, but I can't seem to stop myself. It's like there's another person inside me who takes over just when things start getting good." Sarah had discovered the fundamental challenge every conscious creator faces: the conflict between conscious desire and subconscious programming. Her conscious mind genuinely wanted a loving, committed relationship, but her subconscious mind, programmed by watching her parents' volatile marriage, had learned that love equals pain and abandonment is inevitable. Every time Sarah met someone she could genuinely care about, her subconscious survival system activated. It began creating scenarios to prove that this person would eventually hurt her, just like her programming predicted. The thoughts seemed to come from nowhere. "He's probably cheating. She's going to leave me. I'm not good enough for someone this amazing." These weren't Sarah's conscious thoughts. They were her programming running automatically. And because thoughts are creative, those fearful projections began manifesting as reality. Her partners would start feeling her distrust and pulling away, confirming her subconscious belief and strengthening the program for next time. The breakthrough came when Sarah realized she wasn't fighting her thoughts. She was fighting her programming. Once she understood this distinction, she could begin the real work of conscious creation, reprogramming her subconscious mind to match her conscious desires. The science of mental reprogramming. Brain is the most sophisticated learning machine ever created, capable of forming new neural networks throughout your entire lifetime. Every time you have a new thought, your brain creates new connections between neurons. Every time you repeat that thought, you strengthen those connections. Eventually, if you think the same thoughts consistently enough, they become automatic, which is exactly how habits, beliefs, and personality traits are formed. But here's the exciting part. This process works in both directions. Just as you can strengthen neural pathways through repetition, you can also weaken them by choosing different thoughts. When you stop thinking old thoughts and start thinking new ones, the old neural networks begin to break down while new ones are being built. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research has shown that when people engage in specific mental practices that combine clear intention with elevated emotion, they can literally rewire their brains in measurable ways. Brain scans of his students show increased activity in areas associated with learning, memory, and higher cognitive function, while areas associated with stress and survival responses begin to calm down. This isn't just psychology, it's neurobiology. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You can literally think yourself into a new personality, and that new personality will create a new personal reality. The key is understanding that your thoughts must be accompanied by matching emotions to create lasting change. Thought is the language of the brain, but emotion is the language of the body. When you combine a clear mental intention with the feeling of already having what you desire, you create what scientists call state-dependent learning. In this state, Your brain releases specific neurochemicals that signal your genes to create the proteins necessary for building new neural networks. You literally begin to embody your new thoughts at the cellular level. This is how lasting transformation happens, not through willpower or positive thinking alone, but through the marriage of conscious intention and embodied emotion. The master key, conscious programming, the most powerful technique for aligning your conscious and subconscious minds, is what I call conscious programming. The deliberate practice of installing new beliefs and patterns while in specific brainwave states that make your subconscious mind most receptive to change. Your brainwaves naturally shift throughout the day between different frequencies, each associated with different states of consciousness. Beta waves dominate during normal waking consciousness, the analytical, problem-solving state most people spend their days in. Alpha waves emerge during relaxed awareness, the state you're in right now as you listen to these words with a quiet, receptive mind, but it's in the theta brainwave state, the same frequency you experience during deep meditation, right before sleep, or in moments of profound insight, that your subconscious mind becomes most programmable. In theta, the critical factor of your conscious mind relaxes its guard, allowing new information to bypass your existing beliefs and install directly into your operating system. This is why the most powerful transformations often happen during meditation, in the moments between wake and sleep, or during deeply emotional experiences. Your protective mental barriers are down, and new programming can take root. Ancient mystery schools understood this principle and developed elaborate initiation ceremonies designed to induce theta states while installing new beliefs about reality and human potential. Modern hypnotherapists use similar principles to help people overcome phobias, addictions, and limiting beliefs in a matter of sessions rather than years. You can harness this same principle for conscious creation. By learning to recognize and intentionally enter theta states, you can begin reprogramming your subconscious mind with beliefs that support your desired reality rather than perpetuate your past conditioning. The 3 levels of mental creations. You begin working with the law of the creative mind. It's crucial to understand that there are 3 distinct levels at which your mental activity creates reality. Most people only work with the first level, which is why their results are often inconsistent or temporary. Level 1 is surface thinking, the constant stream of thoughts, reactions, and mental commentary that fills most people's days. This level creates reality, but very slowly and often chaotically, because the thoughts are usually contradictory, unfocused, and emotionally neutral. Surface thinking might eventually manifest results, but it's like trying to write with a pencil that has almost no lead. Possible, but inefficient. Level 2 is intentional thinking, the conscious, focused mental activity that happens when you're deliberately trying to create change. This is where most personal development work occurs. Setting goals, visualizing outcomes, and maintaining positive mental attitudes. This level creates reality much more effectively than surface thinking, but it's still limited by whatever resistance exists in your subconscious programming. Level 3 is embodied thinking, mental activity that has been fully integrated with matching emotional states and physical sensations. At this level, you're not just thinking new thoughts. You're feeling and experiencing the reality of those thoughts as if they were already manifest. This is the level where miracles happen, where seemingly impossible changes occur rapidly, and where the quantum field responds most dramatically to your creative commands. The secret is learning to move your most important thoughts from level 1 through level 2 to level 3, where they become living realities rather than mere concepts. Becoming the observer of your own mind, Marcus had always been a chronic worrier. He worried about his health, his finances, his relationships, his job security, you name it, and Marcus could find a way to worry about it. He had read every self-help book on positive thinking and could intellectually understand that his worrying wasn't serving him, but he couldn't seem to stop. "It's like my mind has a mind of its own," he told me. "I'll decide to stop worrying about something, and 5 minutes later, I catch myself doing it again." Marcus was experiencing what most people experience when they first try to change their thinking patterns. He was identified with his thoughts. He believed he was his thoughts, so when worrying thoughts arose, he automatically became a worrying person. He couldn't see the thoughts objectively because he was too close to them. The breakthrough came when Marcus learned to become the observer of his mind rather than the victim of it. Through consistent practice, he developed what psychologists call metacognition, the ability to think about thinking. Instead of being lost in his thoughts, he learned to step back and watch them like clouds passing through the sky of his awareness. This shift changed everything. Once Marcus could observe his thoughts objectively, he realized they weren't facts. They were just mental habits. He could choose which thoughts to engage with and which ones to let pass by. He could catch himself in the early stages of a worry spiral and consciously redirect his mental energy toward more productive patterns. But the real transformation happened when Marcus began using his observer consciousness to consciously plant new thoughts in his mind. Instead of just trying to stop negative thinking, he started deliberately cultivating thoughts of confidence, prosperity, and well-being. He would catch himself in worry mode, acknowledge the pattern without judgment, and then consciously choose a more empowering thought. Within 3 months, Marcus had become a completely different person. Not only had his chronic worrying disappeared, but opportunities began showing up in his life that matched his new mental patterns. He received a promotion at work. His relationship with his wife deepened significantly, and his overall health and energy improved dramatically. The law of the creative mind had taken his new thoughts and translated them into new experiences. Your new identity as a conscious creator here is what I want you to understand as we close this exploration of your mind's creative power. You are not at the mercy of whatever random thoughts happen to drift through your consciousness. You have the ability to consciously direct your mental energy toward thoughts that serve your highest good and the fulfillment of your deepest desires. This doesn't mean you have to monitor every single thought. That would be exhausting and counterproductive. It means becoming increasingly aware of your dominant mental patterns and intentionally cultivating thoughts that align with who you're becoming rather than who you've been. Your thoughts are seeds, and consciousness is the most fertile soil in the universe. Every thought you think with genuine feeling and focused attention begins growing immediately into corresponding experiences. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal mechanism through which consciousness creates reality. But remember, the law of the creative mind responds to the thoughts you think most often with the strongest emotion, not the thoughts you think occasionally with mild interest. If you spend 5 minutes a day thinking positively, but 8 hours thinking habitually in old patterns, your old patterns will continue to create your reality. The invitation is to gradually shift the balance. Begin noticing your automatic thought patterns without judging them. Start choosing more empowering thoughts, not as a struggle against negativity, but as a gift to yourself and your future. Practice thinking thoughts that feel good to think, thoughts that make you smile, thoughts that connect you with possibilities rather than problems. As you do this consistently, you'll notice something remarkable beginning to happen. Your external circumstances will start shifting to match your new internal landscape. The people, opportunities, and experiences that show up in your life will begin reflecting your elevated mental patterns. This is the law of the creative mind in action, and you are its willing and conscious participant. Feel your mind relaxing now, releasing any need to control every thought, while simultaneously awakening to your power to consciously choose the thoughts that will create your tomorrow. Chapter 3. The Second Law. The Law of Emotional Vibration. The magnetic power of emotions to attract or repel your manifestation. The secret language of creation. If thoughts are the seeds of creation, then emotions are the water, sunlight, and soil that determine whether those seeds flourish into beautiful gardens or wither into forgotten dreams. The law of emotional vibration reveals one of the most closely guarded secrets of conscious creation. Your emotions are not just feelings. They are vibrational frequencies that act as magnetic forces in the quantum field. Every emotion you experience generates a specific electromagnetic signature that broadcasts into the universe like a radio station transmitting on a particular frequency. Joy vibrates at approximately 540 Hz, love at 528 Hz, gratitude around 540 Hz, while fear vibrates at 100 Hz, anger at 150 Hz, and shame at just 20 Hz. These aren't just numbers, they represent the actual energetic frequencies that determine what you attract into your experience. Here's what will transform your understanding of emotions forever. You don't feel emotions because of what happens to you. You experience what happens to you because of the emotions you habitually feel. Your emotional state is not a reaction to your circumstances. It's the creative force that generates your circumstances. Most people have this backwards. They think they'll be happy when they get the relationship, feel grateful when they receive abundance, or experience peace when their problems are solved. But conscious creators understand that you must first become the emotional frequency of what you desire, and then your external world reorganizes itself to match that internal state. This is the law of emotional vibration in action, and it's operating in your life right now, whether you're aware of it or not. The two categories of human emotion. Throughout human history, spiritual teachers have recognized that there are essentially two categories of emotions, though they've used different names to describe them. Some called them love versus fear, others light versus darkness, expansion versus contraction. Modern neuroscience has revealed the physiological truth behind these ancient teachings. There are emotions of survival and emotions of creation. Survival emotions. Fear, anger, frustration, resentment, jealousy, guilt, and shame evolved to help our ancestors survive physical threats in dangerous environments. When your caveman ancestor encountered a saber-toothed tiger, his body flooded with stress hormones that prepared him to fight or flee. These emotions narrow your focus, speed up your heart rate, shut down your digestive system, and pump stress chemicals through your bloodstream. But here's the crucial point. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a real physical threat and an imagined emotional threat. When you worry about paying your bills, stress about your relationship, or feel frustrated by traffic, your body responds exactly as if you were facing that saber-toothed tiger. You flood your system with the same survival chemistry that was designed for life-or-death situations. Living In chronic survival, emotions doesn't just feel terrible. It literally shrinks your creative possibilities. When you're in survival mode, your brain can only perceive solutions that already exist in your past experience. You become predictable, reactive, and unconsciously create more experiences that justify feeling threatened. Creation emotions: love, joy, gratitude, inspiration, wonder, peace, and compassion generate completely different chemistry in your body. They release healing hormones, boost your immune system, increase your heart coherence, and literally grow new neural pathways in your brain. Most importantly, creation emotions expand your perception beyond the known and familiar, allowing you to access solutions, opportunities, and possibilities that don't exist in your current reality. When you operate from creation emotions, you become unpredictable in the best possible way. You start responding to life from a place of infinite possibility rather than reacting from past conditioning. You begin attracting experiences that match these elevated states rather than perpetuating old patterns of struggle and limitation. The story that changed everything. Rebecca was a successful attorney who seemed to have her life perfectly organized on paper. 6-figure income, beautiful home, impressive career trajectory. Everything she had been taught would make her happy. But inside, she felt empty, anxious, and increasingly resentful about the demanding hours and competitive pressure of her profession. "I keep telling myself I should be grateful," she shared with me. "I have everything I thought I wanted, but I feel trapped and exhausted most of the time. I don't understand why I can't just appreciate what I have." Rebecca had fallen into one of the most common traps of unconscious creation. She was trying to feel grateful for a life that didn't actually align with her authentic desires. She was attempting to use gratitude as a strategy to feel better about circumstances that her soul knew were wrong for her. This is what I call emotional bypassing, trying to think your way into feeling different rather than honoring what your emotions are actually telling you. Rebecca's feelings of emptiness and resentment weren't problems to be solved. They were guidance systems pointing her toward a more authentic path. The breakthrough came when Rebecca stopped trying to change her emotions and started listening to them. Her resentment was telling her that she was giving her life energy to something that didn't honor her values. Her anxiety was alerting her that she was living someone else's definition of success rather than her own. Her emptiness was revealing that she had been filling her life with achievements rather than meaning. Once Rebecca understood that her emotions were guidance rather than obstacles, she could begin making conscious choices about how to realign her life. She didn't quit her job immediately. That would have created more survival emotions around security and money. Instead, she began gradually shifting her emotional state by taking small actions that honored her authentic desires. She started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, which connected her with the original passion that drew her to law. She began setting boundaries with clients who treated her disrespectfully. She invested time in relationships and activities that genuinely brought her joy rather than just prestige. As Rebecca's emotional state shifted from resentment and anxiety toward fulfillment and purpose, her external world began reorganizing itself in remarkable ways. She attracted clients who valued her expertise and treated her with respect. Opportunities emerged for her to specialize in work that felt meaningful rather than just profitable. Her relationships deepened as she became more authentic and present. Within 2 years, Rebecca had transitioned into running her own practice focused on helping small business owners, work that energized her rather than drained her. Her income actually increased, but more importantly, she felt alive and inspired. by her daily activities. The law of emotional vibration had responded to her elevated states by creating circumstances that matched her new frequency. The magnetic field of your heart is not just a pump that circulates blood through your body. It's also the most powerful electromagnetic generator in your human system, creating an electrical field that is 60 times greater than your brain's and a magnetic field that extends several feet beyond your physical body in all directions. The HeartMath Institute has conducted groundbreaking research proving that your heart's electromagnetic field changes dramatically based on your emotional state. When you experience coherent emotions like appreciation, compassion, or care, your heart rhythm becomes smooth and ordered. This coherent pattern positively affects your brain function, hormone balance, and immune system. But here's the most fascinating discovery. When your heart is in coherent rhythm, it creates a measurable field effect that can influence the heart rhythms of people around you. You literally become a broadcasting station for coherent energy that others can sense and entrain with, even when they're not consciously aware of it. This explains why some people make you feel instantly comfortable and energized when you're around them, while others leave you feeling drained or agitated. It's not just their personality. It's their electromagnetic signature affecting your own energy field. Now imagine the implications for conscious creation. When you sustain coherent emotional states, you're not just changing your internal experience. You're broadcasting a frequency that attracts people, circumstances, and opportunities that resonate with that same coherent energy. This is why gratitude is such a powerful manifestation tool. When you feel genuine appreciation, your heart immediately shifts into coherence, broadcasting a magnetic field that attracts more experiences worthy of appreciation. It's also why trying to manifest from states of desperation or neediness rarely works. Those emotions create incoherent heart rhythms that repel what you're trying to attract. The alchemy of emotional transformation. Most people believe they need external circumstances to change before they can feel different. They're waiting for the right relationship to feel loved, the right job to feel secure, or the right amount of money to feel abundant. But conscious creators understand the secret of emotional alchemy. You can consciously choose your emotional state regardless of your current circumstances, and that choice will begin creating new circumstances immediately. This doesn't mean suppressing negative emotions or pretending everything is fine when it isn't. Emotional alchemy is about learning to process and release limiting emotions while consciously cultivating the emotional frequencies that align with your desired reality. The first step is developing emotional awareness. Throughout your day, begin noticing what you're feeling without immediately trying to change it. Simply observe. I notice I'm feeling frustrated right now, or I can feel anxiety building in my chest. This awareness alone begins to shift your relationship with your emotions from victim to observer. The second step is understanding that emotions are energy in motion. They're designed to flow through you, not get stuck in you. When you resist an emotion, judge it as bad, or try to suppress it, you actually trap it in your energy field where it continues broadcasting its frequency. But when you allow emotions to move through you consciously, they naturally transform and release. The third step is consciously choosing elevated emotions, not because you're trying to deny reality, but because you're choosing to create a new reality. This is where most people need practice, because we've been conditioned to wait for external permission to feel good. But you have the power to generate any emotional state you choose through focused attention and deliberate practice. Tuning your emotional radio station. Think of yourself as a sophisticated radio that can tune into any frequency you choose. Right now, you might be habitually tuned to stations like Worry FM, Frustration 101.5, or Not Good Enough Radio. But there are infinite stations available to you. Gratitude Central, Love Supreme, Infinite Possibilities Broadcasting, and Miracle Station. The frequency you're tuned to determines what you receive. If you're broadcasting worry, you'll attract more situations to worry about. If you're broadcasting love, you'll magnetize more experiences of being loved. If you're broadcasting abundance, resources and opportunities will flow to you naturally. But here's the key. You can't just think your way to a new frequency. You must feel your way there. Your emotions are your tuning mechanism. When you consciously generate the emotional state that matches what you want to create, you automatically tune your entire being to the frequency where those experiences exist. This is why visualization works when it's done with genuine feeling, and why it fails when it's just mental imagery. When you visualize your desired outcome while simultaneously feeling the emotions you would have if it were already real, the joy, gratitude, excitement, or peace, you're tuning your entire electromagnetic field to the frequency of that reality. The universe doesn't respond to your words or even your thoughts. It responds to your vibrational state, and your emotional frequency is your vibrational state, your invitation to emotional mastery. As we conclude this exploration of your emotional creative power, I want you to understand something profound. You are not at the mercy of your emotions any more than you are at the mercy of your thoughts. Every feeling you experience is happening within the field of your consciousness, and consciousness always has choice. This doesn't mean becoming emotionally numb or controlling. It means developing emotional intelligence, the ability to feel fully while choosing consciously. It means honoring your authentic emotions while taking responsibility for the frequency you broadcast into the world. Starting now, begin treating your emotions as the powerful creative forces they are. When you feel love, let it expand through your entire being and radiate outward. When you experience gratitude, savor it, and let it magnetize more experiences worthy of appreciation. When joy arises naturally, don't hold back. Let it flow through you and bless everyone around you. And when challenging emotions arise, because they will, receive them as messengers rather than enemies. What is this feeling trying to tell you? What old pattern is ready to be released? What aspect of your life is calling for authentic change? Remember, you are not here to have a mediocre emotional experience. You are here to discover the full spectrum of human feeling and to consciously choose the frequencies that create the life you truly desire. Your emotions are not happening to you. They are happening through you, and you have far more choice in this process than you've ever imagined. Feel your heart opening now to the infinite emotional possibilities available to you in this moment. You are the composer of your emotional symphony, and every feeling is a note you can choose to play in the creation of your masterpiece life. Chapter 4, The Third Law, the Law of Energetic Correspondence. How your internal states reflect perfectly in your external world. The mirror that never lies. Look around you right now at your life circumstances, your relationships, your financial situation, your health, your living environment, even the way people treat you. What you're seeing isn't random. It isn't coincidence. It isn't bad luck or good fortune. What you're looking at is a perfect reflection of your internal energetic state, as precise and accurate as your reflection in a mirror. The law of energetic correspondence is perhaps the most profound and transformative principle in all of conscious creation. Yet it's also the one most people resist understanding because it requires taking complete responsibility for everything you experience. This law states that your outer world is always an exact mirror of your inner world. Not just sometimes, not just for the big things, but always for everything. The ancient Hermetic axiom captured this perfectly. As above, so below. As within, so without. What exists in the invisible realm of consciousness must manifest in the visible realm of experience. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and energy patterns cannot remain internal. They must express themselves as external circumstances, relationships, and events. This isn't a philosophical concept or a spiritual platitude. This is the fundamental operating principle of reality itself. And once you truly understand it, you'll never again wonder why certain patterns keep showing up in your life, because you'll recognize them as perfect reflections of patterns that exist within your own consciousness. But here's what most people miss. This law doesn't just explain why your current reality looks the way it does. It reveals the exact mechanism through which you can consciously create any reality you desire. The invisible becomes visible everything you can see in your physical world first existed as energy in the invisible realm of consciousness. Your home existed as an idea in an architect's mind before it became blueprints, and blueprints before it became wood and stone. Your relationships began as energetic attractions in the quantum field before they manifested as meetings and conversations. Even your body is constantly rebuilding itself from the energetic information contained in your thoughts and emotions. Dr. Bruce Lipton's groundbreaking research in epigenetics has proven that your genes don't control your destiny. Your perceptions control your gene expression. The beliefs you hold about yourself and your life literally signal your DNA to create proteins that support those beliefs. If you believe you're prone to illness, your genes will express that belief. If you believe you're resilient and healthy, your genes will express that instead. This means your body is continuously reshaping itself according to the energetic template of your consciousness. Every cell in your body is replaced approximately every 7 years, but the new cells are built according to the same energetic blueprint, unless you consciously change that blueprint through shifting your internal state. The same principle applies to every area of your life. Your financial situation reflects your internal relationship with abundance and scarcity. Your romantic relationships mirror your internal relationship with love and worthiness. Your career satisfaction reflects your internal alignment between your values and your actions. The external world is not separate from you. It's an extension of you. It's consciousness made visible, energy made manifest, your internal state projected outward for you to experience and learn from. The 3 mirrors of reality, understanding the law of energetic correspondence becomes much clearer when you recognize that there are 3 primary mirrors through which your consciousness reflects itself in your external world. The first mirror is your relationships. Every person in your life is reflecting some aspect of your own consciousness back to you. The people you're drawn to are showing you qualities you have developed or aspire to develop within yourself. The people who trigger you are highlighting aspects of your own nature that you haven't yet integrated or accepted. This doesn't mean that difficult people are your fault, or that you should blame yourself for others' behavior. It means that the universe brings you exactly the relationships you need to grow, heal, and evolve. Your romantic partner often reflects your relationship with yourself, how you value yourself, what you believe you deserve, and where you need to develop self-love. Your boss might reflect your relationship with authority and power. Your children often mirror back your own unhealed childhood wounds or undeveloped potentials. The second mirror is your circumstances. Your financial situation reflects your internal beliefs about money, abundance, and worthiness. If you have chronic money problems, look within for beliefs like, money is hard to come by, rich people are greedy, or I don't deserve abundance. Your health reflects your internal relationship with your body, stress levels, and life force energy. Your living environment mirrors your internal sense of order, beauty, and self-worth. The third mirror is the world itself, the types of news stories that capture your attention, the social and political issues you feel passionate about, even the natural disasters or global events you notice most. All of these reflect aspects of your own inner landscape. If you're constantly focused on conflict and division in the world, examine where you experience internal conflict. If you're drawn to stories of corruption and injustice, look at where you might be betraying your own values. The story of two brothers, Michael and David, were identical twins, raised in the same household, attending the same schools, exposed to the same opportunities and challenges. Yet by their 30s, their lives looked completely different. Michael struggled with debt, worked in a job he hated, and had a series of failed relationships. David was financially abundant, loved his work, and was happily married with 2 children. Their external circumstances were so different that most people would assume they came from different families entirely. But the law of energetic correspondence reveals exactly why their lives diverged so dramatically. In childhood, both brothers experienced their parents' messy divorce, but each twin processed this experience through completely different internal filters. Michael internalized the message that love never lasts and people always leave. He developed beliefs that he was somehow flawed and unworthy of lasting love. He learned to protect himself by keeping people at a distance, emotionally. David internalized a different message from the same events. He decided that, I want to do better than my parents did, and I'm going to learn how to create healthy relationships. He developed beliefs about his own capacity to grow and heal from difficult experiences. These different internal interpretations created completely different energetic patterns within each brother. Michael's energy was guarded, fearful, and focused on protecting himself from potential hurt. This energy naturally attracted people who were emotionally unavailable, jobs that felt insecure, and financial circumstances that reflected his internal sense of scarcity. David's energy was open, growth-oriented, and focused on creating rather than protecting. This energy attracted people who were also committed to growth, opportunities that allowed him to express his creativity, and financial abundance that reflected his internal sense of possibility. Neither brother was conscious of these patterns at first. They were simply living out the automatic consequences of their internal programming. But when Michael finally understood the law of energetic correspondence, everything changed. He realized that his external struggles weren't happening to him. They were happening through him, reflecting internal patterns he could consciously change. Michael began the inner work of healing his relationship with love, trust, and worthiness. As his internal state shifted, his external world began shifting to match. Within 2 years, he had attracted a loving partnership, transitioned to work that fulfilled him, and achieved financial stability for the first time in his adult life. The same events that once seemed to prove his unworthiness became the catalyst for his transformation, because he understood that changing his inner world would automatically change his outer world. The quantum field responds to your energetic state. Modern quantum physics has validated what ancient mystics have always known. Consciousness and matter are not separate phenomena. The observer effect in quantum mechanics proves that the act of conscious observation actually influences the behavior of subatomic particles. This means that your consciousness is not passively observing reality. It's actively participating in creating reality at the most fundamental level. Dr. William Tiller's groundbreaking experiments at Stanford University demonstrated that human intention can actually change the properties of physical matter. When experienced meditators focused their intentions on electronic devices, those devices became conditioned and began affecting their environment in measurable ways, even when the meditators were no longer present. This research reveals something extraordinary. Your consciousness creates an energetic imprint that continues affecting your environment, even when you're not consciously thinking about it. Your habitual thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are constantly conditioning the quantum field around you, influencing what types of experiences can manifest in your reality. The field doesn't respond to what you say you want, or even what you think you want. It responds to your authentic energetic state, the vibrational frequency created by your most consistent thoughts and emotions. If you say you want love, but your energetic state is fearful and guarded, the field will respond to fear, not your words. If you affirm abundance, but your energetic state is anxious and grasping, the field will respond to scarcity, not your affirmations. This is why lasting change requires shifting your internal state, not just changing your external behaviors or circumstances. When you transform your energetic signature, the quantum field has no choice but to reorganize itself around your new frequency, bringing you experiences that match your elevated state. Reading the messages in your mirror, once you understand that your external world is constantly reflecting your internal state, you can begin using your circumstances as a guidance system for conscious evolution. Instead of seeing challenges as problems to be solved, you can recognize them as messages from your own consciousness, highlighting areas ready for growth and transformation. If you keep attracting people who don't appreciate your efforts, look within for where you don't appreciate yourself. If money consistently slips through your fingers, examine your internal relationship with receiving and self-worth. If you feel stuck in your career, explore where you might be playing small or avoiding your authentic power. But here's the crucial distinction. This isn't about blame or self-judgment. This is about empowerment and conscious creation. When you recognize that your external circumstances are reflecting internal patterns, you simultaneously realize that you have the power to change those circumstances by changing those patterns. The mirror doesn't lie, but it also doesn't condemn. It simply reflects back to you the exact vibrational frequency you're broadcasting, giving you constant feedback about your internal state and infinite opportunities to choose differently. Sarah noticed that she kept attracting clients who wanted her services, but then tried to negotiate her prices down or expected extra work for free. At first, she thought it was just bad luck or the nature of her industry. But when she understood the law of energetic correspondence, she looked within and discovered that she had deep-seated beliefs about not deserving full compensation for her talents. She realized she was unconsciously sending mixed messages, saying she was worth her full fee, while energetically believing she should be grateful for whatever people were willing to pay. Once she began healing her internal relationship with her own value and worth, her external experience transformed dramatically. New clients began appearing who valued her expertise and paid her requested rates without negotiation. The external change happened naturally as a reflection of her internal transformation. She didn't have to find different clients. She became the type of person who attracts high-value clients by raising her own energetic frequency to match that reality. The art of conscious correspondence, working consciously with the law of energetic correspondence, requires developing what I call correspondence awareness, the ability to recognize the connections between your internal states and external experiences. This isn't about becoming obsessive or analyzing every detail of your life. It's about developing a gentle, more curious awareness that allows you to use your life experiences as feedback for your consciousness evolution. Begin by choosing one area of your life that you'd like to understand more deeply. Perhaps your finances, relationships, or health. Instead of focusing on what you want to change externally, ask yourself, what internal state is this external situation reflecting? Don't judge whatever insights arise. Simply observe with compassion and curiosity. If you're experiencing financial stress, you might discover internal states of scarcity, unworthiness, or fear around security. If you're having relationship challenges, you might find patterns of self-abandonment, fear of intimacy, or unresolved wounds from the past. If you're dealing with health issues, you might uncover chronic stress, emotional suppression, or disconnection from your body's wisdom. Once you identify the internal pattern, you can begin consciously choosing different thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. This isn't about positive thinking or denial of current circumstances. This is about recognizing that you have the power to generate new internal states that will naturally create new external experiences. The key is consistency. The law of energetic correspondence responds to your dominant internal state, not your occasional positive thoughts. You must practice your new internal state regularly enough that it becomes your natural frequency, your default way of being. As you do this inner work, watch for external shifts that confirm your internal transformation. These might be subtle at first: a friendly conversation with a stranger, an unexpected opportunity, a sense of greater ease in areas that used to feel difficult. These are signs that the quantum field is responding to your elevated state and beginning to reorganize itself around your new frequency. Your reflection, your creation. As we conclude this exploration of the law of energetic correspondence, I want you to consider a profound possibility. What if nothing in your life is accidental? What if every experience, every relationship, every challenge, and every blessing has appeared in your reality because your consciousness called it forth? This doesn't mean you consciously chose difficult experiences or that you wanted challenging situations. It means that every external circumstance is a perfect response to your internal energetic state, designed to help you grow, heal, and remember your true creative power. Your life is not happening to you. It's happening as you. Your external world is not separate from your consciousness. It's your consciousness made visible. Every person you encounter, every situation you experience, every opportunity that appears or disappears is part of an intricate dance between your internal state and the responsive universe. When you truly embody this understanding, victim consciousness becomes impossible. You can never again blame external circumstances for your experience because you recognize that those circumstances are emanating from within you. But more importantly, you realize that this means you have unlimited power to create new circumstances by cultivating new internal states. Your relationships can transform when you change your relationship with yourself. Your financial situation can shift when you heal your internal relationship with abundance. Your health can improve when you align with vitality and self-love. Your career can flourish when you connect with your authentic purpose and power. The mirror of your life is showing you exactly where you are in your consciousness, evolution, and exactly what's ready to be transformed. Every reflection is an invitation to go deeper, to choose more consciously, to align more fully with the truth of who you are. You are not at the mercy of your reflections. You are their creator. And in every moment, you have the power to generate new internal states that will create new external realities. Look into the mirror of your life now with complete acceptance of what you see and complete excitement for what you can create. Your external world is waiting to reflect the magnificence that you choose to embody. Chapter 5. The Fourth Law. The Law of Quantum Time. Why the present moment is your only point of real creative power. The illusion that imprisons most of humanity. Time is not what you think it is. The linear progression from past to present to future that dominates most people's experience is actually a sophisticated illusion, a necessary construct for navigating physical reality, but a profound limitation when it comes to conscious creation. The law of quantum time reveals one of the most liberating truths you'll ever encounter. The only moment that actually exists is now. And this eternal now is where all of your creative power resides. Most people live their lives psychologically scattered across a timeline that doesn't actually exist. They carry the weight of past regrets, mistakes, and traumas as if these events are happening right now. They project anxiety, hope, and expectation into an imagined future as if it's more real than their present experience. This mental time travel doesn't just waste their energy. It disconnects them from the only moment where creation actually occurs. The quantum field, that invisible realm of infinite possibilities from which all manifest reality emerges, exists outside of linear time. In the quantum realm, all possibilities exist simultaneously in what physicists call the eternal now. Your past and future, all potential versions of yourself, every possible outcome of every decision you might make. All of this exists right here, right now, in this moment. But here's what will change everything for you. You don't just have access to this field of infinite possibilities. You are an expression of this field, temporarily focused through the lens of your individual consciousness, and the quality of your presence in this moment determines which possibilities collapse from the quantum field into your experienced reality, where your power actually lives. Jennifer had been trying to manifest her dream relationship for 3 years. She had created vision boards, practiced affirmations, worked with several coaches, and read every book she could find on conscious creation. She could visualize her ideal partner with perfect clarity and felt genuine excitement when she imagined being with him. Yet her romantic life remained frustratingly empty. "I don't understand," she told me during a consultation. "I'm doing everything right. I can see him clearly. I know exactly what I want. I feel grateful for him, even though he hasn't appeared yet. Why isn't this working?" Jennifer's challenge revealed one of the most common mistakes in manifestation work. She was trying to create from the future while living in the past. All of her visualization and intention setting was focused on some distant when she would meet him, when they would be together, when her life would finally begin. Meanwhile, her actual lived experience in the present moment was filled with loneliness, frustration, and a subtle but persistent feeling that she was incomplete without a partner. She was unconsciously affirming, "I am single and waiting," rather than, "I am whole and loved," because her present moment awareness was dominated by the absence of what she desired, rather than the fullness of what was already available to her. The Breakthrough came when Jennifer learned to shift her creative focus from the imagined future to the experienced present. Instead of visualizing her future partner, she began cultivating the feelings of being loved, cherished, and partnered right now. She started treating herself the way she wanted to be treated by her ideal mate. She began appreciating the love that already existed in her life. From friends, family, her pets, even from the kindness of strangers. Most importantly, she learned to feel complete and fulfilled in the present moment, not as a strategy to attract a partner, but as a recognition of her inherent wholeness. She stopped living in the gap between where she was and where she wanted to be, and started inhabiting the fullness of who she already was. Within 6 months, Jennifer met David at a bookstore where she was browsing, not because she was looking for someone, but because she genuinely enjoyed spending Saturday afternoons surrounded by books. Their conversation flowed so naturally that she forgot she had ever felt lonely. They've been together for 2 years now, and Jennifer often marvels at how effortless their relationship feels compared to all her previous attempts at dating. The law of quantum time had responded to her present moment fullness by collapsing the possibility of partnership into her experienced reality. The quantum nature of memory and imagination here is something that might surprise you. Neuroscientists have discovered that your brain uses the same neural networks to remember the past, experience the present, and imagine the future. When you recall a memory, your brain fires in patterns virtually identical to when you initially experienced that event. When you vividly imagine a future scenario, your brain activates the same regions that would fire if you were actually living that experience. This means that from your brain's perspective, a clearly imagined future experience and a vividly recalled past experience are neurologically equivalent to a present moment experience. Your nervous system can't distinguish between an event that happened, an event that's happening, or an event that you're imagining with sufficient detail and emotion. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research has taken this understanding even further. His studies show that when people engage in detailed mental rehearsal of new behaviors while in specific brainwave states, their brains begin forming new neural networks as if they had already lived those experiences. Their bodies start producing the neurochemicals associated with their imagined future before that future has manifested in physical reality. This neuroplasticity reveals the mechanism through which consciousness creates reality. When you combine a clear mental image of your desired outcome with the emotions you would feel if that outcome were already real, you literally begin living in that reality at the neurological level. Your brain starts firing in the patterns of your desired future. Your body starts producing the chemistry of your dreams fulfilled, and your electromagnetic field begins broadcasting the signature of your intended reality. But here's the crucial point. This process only works when it happens in the present moment. You cannot create from the past because the past exists only as memory. You cannot create from the future because the future exists only as potential. Creation happens now, in this eternal moment, through your present moment consciousness. The 3 dimensions of now. Understanding the law of quantum time becomes clearer when you recognize that the present moment contains 3 distinct dimensions, each offering different creative possibilities. The first dimension is physical presence, your awareness of your body, your immediate environment, and the sensory information available to you right now. Most people spend very little time in physical presence because they're mentally time-traveling to past or future scenarios. But physical presence is your foundation for all conscious creation, because it anchors you in the only moment where change can actually occur, when you're fully present with your body. You can feel the subtle energy shifts that indicate alignment or misalignment with your desires. You can sense the difference between thoughts that create expansion and thoughts that create contraction. You can feel the electromagnetic changes that occur when you shift your emotional state. Physical presence gives you access to your body's wisdom and your energetic guidance system. The second dimension is emotional presence, your ability to feel your feelings fully without being overwhelmed by them or trying to escape from them. Most people either suppress their emotions or become identified with them, but emotional presence allows you to feel everything while remaining centered in your witnessing awareness. Emotional presence is crucial for conscious creation because emotions are the fuel that powers manifestation. When you're emotionally present, you can consciously generate the feelings associated with your desired reality. You can feel grateful before your manifestation appears, experience love before your perfect relationship arrives, and embody abundance before material wealth manifests. The third dimension is quantum presence, your awareness of yourself as consciousness itself, temporarily focused through an individual perspective, but ultimately one with the infinite field of possibility. Quantum presence is where miracles happen, because in this state, you recognize that you are not separate from what you're trying to create. You are the quantum field expressing itself as both the creator and the creation. In quantum presence, the gap between desire and fulfillment collapses because you realize that everything you could ever want already exists within the field of infinite possibility. Your job is not to make something happen. It's to become the version of yourself for whom that something is already happening. Collapsing future realities into present experience. Most advanced practitioners of conscious creation have learned to collapse desired future realities into present moment experience through a process I call future memory creation. This technique leverages the brain's inability to distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual memories to literally program your nervous system with the neurological patterns of your desired future. The process begins with identifying a specific outcome you want to create, but instead of visualizing it as something that will happen, you experience it as something that has already happened. You don't imagine meeting your ideal business partner. You remember the day you met them. You don't visualize living in your dream home. You recall the moment you walked through the door for the first time. But this isn't just mental imagery. You engage all of your senses and emotions as if you're recalling an actual memory. You see the specific details of the experience, hear the sounds that were present, feel the physical sensations in your body, and most importantly, experience the emotions you felt when this wonderful thing occurred in your life. The key is to make this imagined memory so vivid and emotionally compelling that your brain begins treating it as an actual experience. When you achieve this level of neurological conviction, several profound changes begin occurring immediately. First, your brain starts firing in the neural patterns associated with already having what you desire, rather than wanting or needing it. This shifts your entire electromagnetic signature from lack to fulfillment, from seeking to having, from future-focused, hoping to present moment knowing. Second, your body begins producing the neurochemicals and hormones associated with your fulfilled desire. If you've created a future memory of career success, your body starts generating the confidence chemistry of achievement. If you've programmed the memory of perfect health, your immune system begins responding as if optimal wellness is your natural state. Third, your behavior automatically begins aligning with your future memory because your brain now has a template for how someone who has already achieved this outcome thinks, feels, and acts. You don't have to force yourself to take different actions. They emerge naturally from your new neurological programming. The paradox of timeless creation. Marcus was a talented musician who had been struggling for years to build a sustainable career in the music industry. He had the skills, the passion, and the dedication, but he couldn't seem to break through to the level of success he knew was possible. His approach to manifestation reflected a common misunderstanding about how quantum creation works. "I visualize myself performing at major venues," he told me. "I see myself recording in famous studios. I imagine having thousands of fans. I've been doing this for 2 years, and I believe it's all going to happen eventually, but nothing's changed yet." Marcus was projecting his desires into an imaginary future rather than collapsing them into present reality. His visualizations were keeping his dreams safely distant from his current experience, which allowed him to avoid the vulnerability and action that real change requires. The shift happened when Marcus learned to experience his musical success as present reality rather than future possibility. Instead of imagining someday performing for large audiences, he began feeling the satisfaction and gratitude of already being a successful musician. Instead of hoping for future recording opportunities, he started treating his current home studio work with the same reverence and professionalism he would bring to a major label session. Most importantly, he began making decisions from the identity of someone who was already living their musical dreams rather than someone who was still hoping to achieve them. He invested in better equipment, not because he might need it someday, but because successful musicians have quality tools. He practiced with greater intensity, not to prepare for future opportunities, but because he was already living as a professional. The external changes began immediately. Within weeks, he received an invitation to collaborate with a producer he had admired for years. Within months, he was performing regularly at venues that matched his vision. Within a year, he had signed with a manager who helped him launch the career he had been visualizing for so long. But the most profound change was internal. Marcus had learned to inhabit his desired reality in the present moment, rather than postponing it to an imaginary future. He had collapsed the time gap between his current identity and his intended identity, allowing the quantum field to organize circumstances that matched his new state of being. The eternal now as your creative laboratory. Present moment is not a stepping stone to somewhere else. It's your creative laboratory, the space where all transformation occurs. Every moment offers you the opportunity to choose who you're being, how you're feeling, and what you're creating. But most people treat the present moment as something to get through, rather than something to fully inhabit. When you understand the law of quantum time, you realize that trying to change your future without changing your present is impossible. Your future is not separate from your now. It's your now extended forward in time. The person you're being in this moment is creating the experiences you'll have in the next moment, and the next, and the next. This means that conscious creation is not about manipulating future outcomes. It's about consciously choosing your present moment state of being. When you become in the present moment the person who already has what you desire, you automatically begin creating the circumstances that will support that identity. If you want to create financial abundance, you must learn to embody abundance consciousness now, with whatever resources you currently have. If you want to manifest perfect health, you must cultivate vitality and appreciation for your body in its current state. If you want to attract your soulmate, you must first become whole and complete within yourself. This doesn't mean settling for current circumstances or abandoning your dreams. It means recognizing that your power to create change exists only in this moment, and this moment is where you must plant the seeds of your desired future. Mastering the art of present moment creation working with the law of quantum time requires developing what I call present moment mastery, the ability to remain consciously centered in the now while simultaneously programming your desired future into your current experience. This begins with learning to catch yourself when your attention drifts into past regrets or future anxieties. Instead of judging these mental habits, simply notice them and gently redirect your attention to what's actually happening right now. Feel your breath. Notice your environment. Become aware of the sensations in your body. But present moment awareness is just the foundation. The real magic happens when you begin using your present moment consciousness to embody the reality you want to create. In any given moment, you can ask yourself, how would I be feeling right now if my dreams were already fulfilled? How would I be breathing? What would my posture be? How would I be relating to this current situation? Then, without waiting for external circumstances to change, you begin embodying those feelings, that breathing pattern, that posture, that way of being. You don't do this to manipulate outcomes. You do this because you're choosing to live from your highest possibility rather than your current limitations. As you practice this consistently, you'll begin to notice that your external circumstances start shifting to match your internal state. Opportunities appear that align with your elevated identity. People respond to you differently because you're broadcasting a different frequency. Challenges resolve more easily because you're approaching them from a more empowered state. The law of quantum time responds to your present moment consciousness by organizing reality around whoever you're choosing to be right now. Your invitation to timeless power. As we conclude this exploration of time and creation, I want you to consider something profound. You are not living in time. Time is living in you. The linear progression of past, present, and future exists within your consciousness, not the other way around. This means you have far more creative control over your experience of time than you've ever realized. You can choose to inhabit the present moment fully, accessing all of your creative power in the eternal now. You can program future realities into your current experience through the miracle of consciousness. You can heal past wounds by changing your present relationship to those experiences. You can accelerate your manifestations by collapsing the imaginary gap between desire and fulfillment. But most importantly, you can stop living in the prison of linear time and start operating from the freedom of quantum time, where all possibilities exist simultaneously, and your consciousness determines which possibilities become your experienced reality. The future you desire is not somewhere ahead of you in time. It exists right now in the quantum field of infinite possibility. Your job is not to wait for it to arrive, but to become the version of yourself for whom it has already arrived. Time is not your master. It's your canvas, and in every eternal now moment, you have the power to paint the reality you choose to experience. Feel yourself settling into this present moment now, releasing any need to be anywhere other than exactly where you are, while simultaneously opening to the infinite possibilities that exist within this eternal now. Chapter 6. The Fifth Law, the Law of Inspired Action. To distinguish between forced effort and natural movement aligned with universal flow, dance between being and doing. There's a profound misunderstanding in the world of conscious creation that has led countless people astray. Some believe that if they just think positive thoughts and visualize hard enough, everything they desire will magically appear without any effort on their part. Others exhaust themselves with relentless doing, pushing and forcing their way toward goals while ignoring their inner guidance entirely. Both approaches miss the elegant truth revealed by the law of inspired action. True creation happens in the sacred dance between being and doing, between aligning internally with your desired reality and taking aligned action in the physical world. The law of inspired action reveals that there are two completely different types of action available to you at any moment. Forced action that comes from fear, limitation, and the need to control outcomes, and inspired action that flows naturally from love, expansion, and trust in the intelligence of the universe. Most people spend their lives taking forced action because that's what they've been taught. Work hard, push through obstacles, never give up, make it happen through sheer determination. This approach can produce results, but it's exhausting, stressful, and often leads to outcomes that don't actually fulfill you even when you achieve them. Inspired action, on the other hand, feels effortless even when it requires significant energy. It arises naturally from your aligned internal state and moves you forward in ways that feel exciting, meaningful, and sustainable. When you're taking inspired action, doors open, synchronicities multiply, and the universe seems to conspire in your favor. The difference isn't in what you're doing. It's in the consciousness from which you're doing it. The intelligence that orchestrates everything around you right now, and notice the extraordinary intelligence that governs the natural world. Your heart beats approximately 100,000 times per day without any conscious effort from you. Your body digests food, fights infections, and repairs damaged cells through processes so complex that the most advanced supercomputers cannot replicate them. Plants know exactly when to bloom. Animals migrate thousands of miles following invisible pathways, and the entire ecosystem maintains perfect balance through interconnected relationships that scientists are only beginning to understand. This same intelligence that coordinates your cellular regeneration and guides migrating birds is also orchestrating the circumstances of your life, the people you meet, the opportunities that appear, the challenges that arise for your growth. All of this is being organized by the same universal intelligence that runs your body and governs the stars. But here's what most people don't realize. You can consciously collaborate with this intelligence instead of fighting against it. When you align your internal state with your desired outcomes, and then pay attention to the impulses, inspirations, and opportunities that arise, you begin moving in harmony with the organizing principle of the universe, rather than in opposition to it. Dr. David Hawkins spent decades researching human consciousness and discovered that when people operate from what he called power rather than force, they accomplish exponentially more with significantly less effort. Power, in his definition, comes from alignment with life-supporting energy, while force comes from trying to control life through willpower alone. This research validates what spiritual teachers have taught for millennia.
There is a way of moving through life that feels like swimming downstream rather than upstream.
Like dancing with your partner rather than wrestling with your opponent. This is the way of inspired action. The story of two entrepreneurs. Rachel and Amanda were both talented women with similar business ideas, launching their consulting practices within months of each other. They attended the same networking events, had comparable expertise, and were equally committed to success. Yet after 2 years, their experiences looked completely different. Rachel worked 12-hour days, constantly stressed about finding new clients, and often felt like she was pushing a boulder uphill. She booked clients through aggressive sales tactics and delivered results through sheer determination, but she was exhausted, resentful, and secretly wondering if entrepreneurship was worth the struggle. Her business was profitable, but it felt like a prison she had built for herself. Amanda worked fewer hours, seemed to effortlessly attract ideal clients, and appeared to be enjoying the journey of building her business. Clients found her through referrals and synchronistic meetings, and her work felt like a natural expression of her gifts rather than something she had to force. Her business was not only more profitable than Rachel's, but she was energized and inspired by her daily activities. The difference wasn't in their skills, market conditions, or luck. The difference was in how they approached action. Rachel operated from forced action. She took action because she thought she should, making cold calls because that's what business books recommended, attending networking events even when she dreaded them, saying yes to clients who drained her energy because she was afraid to turn down income. Her actions came from fear of failure, need to prove herself, and attempts to control outcomes through effort alone. Amanda operated from inspired action. She took action because she felt genuinely excited or called to do so. She reached out to potential collaborators because she was authentically interested in their work. She attended events that aligned with her values and interests. She worked with clients who energized her and referred clients who didn't fit to colleagues who were better matches. Rachel was swimming upstream against the current of her authentic nature. Amanda was flowing downstream with the current of her genuine enthusiasm and natural gifts. The breakthrough for Rachel came when she learned to distinguish between these two types of action. She began paying attention to how different activities felt in her body. Cold calling made her stomach tighten and her shoulders tense. Speaking at events she cared about made her heart expand and her energy increase. Writing marketing copy from fear made her feel heavy and disconnected. Creating content from genuine excitement to share valuable insights made her feel alive and purposeful. As Rachel began choosing actions that felt expansive rather than contractive, everything in her business shifted. She started attracting clients who valued her expertise and paid her premium rates. She began enjoying her work again and rediscovered the passion that had initially inspired her to start her own business. Within 6 months, she had doubled her income while working fewer hours. She had learned to collaborate with universal intelligence rather than fight against it. The 3 sources of human action understanding. The law of inspired action becomes clearer when you recognize that all human action comes from one of 3 sources, each producing dramatically different results in your life. The first source is conditioned action, behavior that arises from unconscious programming. Social expectations and autopilot habits. Most people spend the majority of their time taking conditioned action because it requires no conscious choice or present moment awareness. You do things because that's what you've always done, what others expect you to do, or what you think you're supposed to do. Conditioned action often feels neutral or slightly resistant because you're not consciously choosing it. You're simply following pre-installed programs. This type of action maintains the status quo and creates predictable results based on your existing patterns and beliefs. The second source is forced action, behavior driven by fear, need to control, or attempts to make something happen through willpower alone. Forced action often feels effortful, stressful, or driven because you're working against natural flow rather than with it. You take forced action when you're trying to overcome obstacles through determination, pushing toward goals despite internal resistance, or doing things you don't want to do because you believe you have to. Forced action can produce results, but they often come at a high cost in terms of energy, stress, and personal fulfillment. Even when forced action succeeds, the outcomes frequently don't bring the satisfaction you expected because they weren't aligned with your authentic nature. The third source is inspired action, behavior that arises from alignment between your internal state and your external choices. Inspired action feels energizing, exciting, or deeply satisfying because you're moving in harmony with your authentic nature and the intelligence of the universe. When you take inspired action, you often experience what psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called flow, the state where action feels effortless, time seems to disappear, and you're fully engaged with whatever you're doing. Inspired action creates results that not only meet your practical goals, but also fulfill you emotionally and spiritually. The technology of inner guidance. Your body is equipped with the most sophisticated guidance system ever created. Internal GPS that can direct you toward actions that serve your highest good and away from actions that drain your energy or lead you off course. This guidance system operates through what you experience as intuition, gut feelings, physical sensations, and energetic responses to different choices. When you're considering an action that's aligned with your authentic path, your body typically responds with expansion. Your breathing deepens, your chest opens, your energy increases, or you feel a sense of rightness or excitement. When you're considering an action that's misaligned, your body usually responds with contraction. Your shoulders tense, your breathing becomes shallow, your energy drops, or you feel resistance or heaviness. Learning to read these subtle signals is crucial for accessing inspired action. Your logical mind can rationalize almost any choice, but your body never lies about whether something is truly aligned for you. James had built a successful law practice over 15 years, but he found himself increasingly depressed and anxious despite his professional achievements. He consulted multiple therapists and tried various medications, but nothing seemed to address the underlying sense that something was fundamentally wrong with his life. The shift began when James started paying attention to how different activities affected his energy and mood. Legal research made him feel heavy and disconnected. Court appearances created anxiety and resistance in his body. But when he volunteered to teach business law at a local community college, he felt energized and alive in ways he hadn't experienced in years. These physical responses were his inner guidance system, attempting to direct him toward work that aligned with his authentic nature and away from work that violated his deeper values and interests. Instead of ignoring these signals or trying to override them through willpower, James began treating them as valuable information about his path forward. He gradually transitioned from traditional legal practice to legal education and consulting, following the thread of what felt expansive rather than what looked good on paper. The transformation wasn't immediate or dramatic. It unfolded naturally over 2 years as James learned to trust his internal guidance and take action based on what felt authentically right, rather than what he thought he should do. By learning to distinguish between the contractive feeling of forced action and the expansive feeling of inspired action, James had accessed a more intelligent way of navigating his career and his life. The paradox of effortless. One of the most misunderstood aspects of inspired action is that it can require significant energy and commitment while still feeling effortless and natural. Effortlessness doesn't mean laziness or lack of engagement. It means that your energy is flowing in the same direction as your actions rather than working against them. Think of the difference between swimming upstream and swimming downstream. Swimming downstream can involve powerful, sustained effort. but it feels energizing because you're working with the current rather than against it. Swimming upstream might involve the same physical effort, but it feels exhausting because you're fighting the natural flow. Inspired action has this same quality of effortless effort. You might work intensely on a project that excites you for hours without feeling drained because your energy and your activity are perfectly aligned. Conversely, you might spend 30 minutes on a task you're forcing yourself to do and feel exhausted because your internal resistance is working against your external effort. This is why some people can build million-dollar businesses while feeling energized and fulfilled, while others burn out trying to create much smaller results. The difference isn't in the amount of work required. It's in the alignment between their internal state and their external activities. Sarah discovered this principle when she decided to write her first book. She had been trying to write for years, setting aside time each morning to work on what she thought should be her book topic, a practical guide to financial planning based on her professional expertise. Despite her discipline and commitment, she could barely produce a page per week, and the writing felt forced and lifeless. Then she attended a workshop where she learned about following inspiration rather than obligation. On the drive home, she felt a sudden urge to write about her experience growing up with an alcoholic parent and how that had shaped her relationship with money. The topic wasn't practical or marketable in any obvious way, but something about it felt alive and urgent. That evening, she wrote for 4 hours without stopping, producing more pages than she had in the previous 3 months combined. The writing felt like channeling rather than creating. The words seemed to flow through her rather than from her. Over the next 6 weeks, working only when she felt inspired to write, she completed a full manuscript. The book she actually wanted to wrote itself once she stopped forcing herself to write the book she thought she should write. By aligning her action with her authentic inspiration, she accessed a level of creative flow that had been unavailable to her when she was working from obligation and strategy alone. Recognizing the difference between push and flow, developing mastery with the law of inspired action requires learning to recognize the subtle but crucial differences between actions that come from push energy and actions that come from flow energy. This distinction isn't always obvious because both types of action can be focused, purposeful, and results-oriented. Push energy feels driven, urgent, or effortful. There's often an underlying tension or anxiety about outcomes, a sense that you must make something happen through force of will. Push energy comes from fear. Fear that opportunities will be missed, that you're not doing enough, that things won't work out unless you control them. Flow energy feels natural, aligned, and sustainable. There's a sense of being drawn forward by something larger than your individual will, a feeling that you're participating in something that wants to happen rather than trying to make something happen. Flow energy comes from love of the process, trust in the outcome, connection with something meaningful. The challenge is that our culture predominantly rewards and recognizes push energy because it looks productive and responsible from the outside. Flow energy can sometimes appear less serious or committed to people who don't understand the power of alignment. But here's what years of working with conscious creators has taught me. Inspired action consistently produces better results with less stress, more satisfaction, and greater sustainability than forced action. When you learn to recognize and follow your authentic impulses rather than your conditioned shoulds, you begin collaborating with the intelligence that governs the entire universe. This doesn't mean becoming passive or waiting for motivation to strike. It means becoming exquisitely sensitive to the difference between actions that expand your energy and actions that contract it, between movements that feel like dancing and movements that feel like struggling. The art of collaborative creation, highest expression of the law of inspired action, occurs when you learn to operate as a conscious collaborator with universal intelligence rather than as a sole proprietor, trying to control outcomes through personal effort alone. This collaborative approach to creation combines the clarity of conscious intention with the intelligence of universal flow. You begin by getting clear about what you want to create, not just as external outcomes, but as internal experiences. How do you want to feel as you move toward your goals? What kind of person do you want to become through this creative process? What values do you want to express through your choices and actions? Then, instead of immediately jumping into action, you create space to listen for guidance. This might happen through meditation, journaling, walking in nature, or simply pausing to ask, what wants to happen next? What would be the most aligned action I could take right now? The guidance rarely comes as dramatic revelations or booming voices from the sky. More often it arises as gentle impulses, sudden ideas, chance encounters, or opportunities that appear at just the right moment. Your job is to remain sensitive to these subtle promptings and courageous enough to act on them, even when they don't make logical sense. As you practice this collaborative approach, you'll begin to notice that the universe has resources, intelligence, and creative solutions that far exceed what your individual mind can conceive. Doors open that you didn't know existed. People appear with exactly the skills or connections you need. Circumstances align in ways that seem almost magical, but are actually the natural result of conscious cooperation with the organizing intelligence of reality. This is not passive waiting or wishful thinking. This is active participation in the creative process at the highest level, contributing your unique gifts, intentions, and efforts while remaining open to possibilities that exceed your current understanding. Your invitation to effortless power. As we conclude this exploration of inspired action, I want you to consider what becomes possible when you learn to move through life from flow rather than force, from inspiration rather than obligation, from love rather than fear. You can accomplish more while working less because your energy and your activities are perfectly aligned. You can create results that not only meet your practical needs but also fulfill your deepest values and desires. You can enjoy the process of creation as much as the outcomes you create, because every step feels meaningful and authentic. But most importantly, you can participate consciously in the extraordinary intelligence that governs all of life instead of exhausting yourself trying to control outcomes. Through willpower alone, the universe is not working against you. It's working with you, through you, and as you. Your job is not to force life to bend to your will, but to discover how your unique gifts and authentic desires can serve the larger unfolding of creation. Every moment offers you the choice between forced action and inspired action, between swimming upstream and flowing downstream, between trying to control life and learning to dance with it. The law of inspired action is your invitation to trust that there is an intelligence far greater than your individual mind that knows exactly how to coordinate the circumstances of your life for your highest good and the good of all. When you learn to move from this place of collaborative creation, action becomes a form of prayer, work becomes a form of play, and your entire life becomes an expression of the love and intelligence that created you. Feel yourself relaxing now into the natural flow of your life, releasing any need to force outcomes, while simultaneously opening to the inspired actions that want to express through you. Chapter 7. The Sixth Law. The law of zero resistance. How your limiting beliefs create invisible barriers between you and your dreams. The invisible prison walls. Right now, as you listen to these words, there are invisible barriers operating in your consciousness that are more powerful than any physical wall in determining what you can and cannot experience in your life. These barriers aren't made of stone or steel. They're made of beliefs. Beliefs about what's possible for someone like you. Beliefs about what you deserve. Beliefs about how the world works and what life requires. The law of zero. Resistance reveals one of the most liberating truths in all of conscious creation. The only thing that can prevent you from manifesting your desires is your own internal resistance to having them. This resistance doesn't usually appear as conscious opposition to your dreams. It shows up as subtle doubts, unconscious contradictions, and limiting beliefs that operate below the threshold of your awareness. Most people spend their lives trying to create changes while simultaneously believing at deeper levels that those changes are impossible, improbable, or somehow not meant for them. It's like pressing the accelerator and the brake at the same time. You might move forward, but it will be slow, effortful, and you'll burn out your engine in the process. But here's what changes everything. When you identify and dissolve the internal resistance that contradicts your desires, manifestation becomes as natural as breathing. The universe's default response to your clear, unresisted intention is always yes. The delays, struggles, and seeming impossibilities you've experienced aren't evidence that manifestation doesn't work. They're evidence that you have internal resistance that needs to be addressed. The 3 categories of limiting beliefs. Understanding the law of zero. Resistance becomes clearer when you recognize that limiting beliefs fall into 3 distinct categories, each creating different types of barriers to your manifestations. Worthiness beliefs are the deepest and most pervasive form of internal resistance. These are beliefs about whether you deserve to have what you want, whether you're good enough to receive blessings, whether someone like you is allowed to experience that level of success, love, or fulfillment. Worthiness beliefs often sound like, I'm not smart enough. People like me don't get things like that, or I haven't earned the right to have that much happiness. These beliefs usually form in childhood when you internalized messages about your value based on conditional approval from parents, teachers, or peers. If you learned that love was conditional on performance, you may have developed beliefs that you must earn everything good that comes to you through suffering or struggle. Possibility beliefs determine what you believe is achievable in the world generally. These beliefs aren't personal. They're about the nature of reality itself. They sound like, life is hard. You have to work hard for money. All the good ones are taken. Or, you can't trust anyone these days. Possibility beliefs create resistance by making your desires seem unrealistic, or naive at safety beliefs protect you from imagined dangers associated with getting what you want. Your subconscious mind might resist manifestation if it believes that success will make you arrogant, that money will corrupt you, that being visible will make you a target, or that having what you want will somehow hurt others. Safety beliefs often operate completely unconsciously, creating self-sabotage just when your dreams start becoming reality. The story of the invisible. Ceiling Michelle was a brilliant marketing consultant who seemed destined for extraordinary success. She had worked with major brands, received glowing testimonials from clients, and possessed the skills and connections to build a multi-million-dollar consultancy. Yet every time her income approached the $200,000 mark, something would go wrong. Clients would suddenly cancel contracts, Unexpected expenses would arise, or she would unconsciously make decisions that sabotaged her momentum. For years, Michelle thought she was just unlucky, or that the market was particularly competitive. She worked harder, upgraded her skills, and refined her strategies. But the same pattern continued. Just as success seemed within reach, some invisible force would pull her back down to a more modest level of achievement. The breakthrough came during a session where we explored her earliest memories about money and success. Michelle recalled being 7 years old when her father received a significant promotion at work. Instead of celebrating, her family experienced tremendous stress. Her mother became anxious about their new social expectations. Her father worked even longer hours and became emotionally distant, and Michelle felt like she had lost her happy, connected family. In her 7-year-old mind, Michelle concluded that success destroys families, and that people who care about each other should stay at modest levels of achievement to preserve their relationships. This belief operated completely unconsciously for 30 years, creating an invisible ceiling that prevented her from achieving the success she consciously desired. Once Michelle recognized this limiting belief and understood its origins, she could begin to consciously choose new beliefs that supported her desires rather than sabotaged them. She realized that success could actually enhance her relationships by allowing her to be more generous, relaxed, and fulfilled. Within 6 months of dissolving this internal resistance, Michelle's income doubled. Within 2 years, she had built the successful consultancy she had always envisioned. And contrary to her childhood fears, her relationships had become deeper and more satisfying as she became more authentic and confident. The only thing that had been stopping her was her own internal resistance to having what she wanted. The archaeology of beliefs, your current beliefs, didn't form in a vacuum. They developed as logical responses to the experiences and information you encountered, particularly during your most impressionable years. Understanding where your limiting beliefs came from doesn't excuse them or make them permanently true, but it does help you recognize that they were protective strategies rather than absolute truths about reality. If you grew up in a household where money was constantly scarce and stressful, you might have developed beliefs that money is hard to come by, or that wanting money makes you greedy. These beliefs protected you as a child by helping you fit into your family system, but they may be limiting your adult creative potential. If you experienced betrayal or abandonment in important relationships, you might have developed beliefs that it's dangerous to trust people, or that everyone eventually leaves. These beliefs protected you from further hurt, but they may be preventing you from experiencing the love and connection you desire. If you were criticized or shamed for expressing yourself authentically, you might have developed beliefs that it's safer to stay small, or that visibility leads to attack. These beliefs protected you from judgment, but they may be keeping you from sharing your gifts with the world. The key insight is that beliefs are not facts. They're interpretations of experience that seem true at the time they were formed. A 3-year-old who concludes, "Daddy left because I was bad," is creating a belief based on limited information and developmental capacity. That same conclusion would be illogical for an adult who understands that relationship dynamics are complex and that parental choices reflect adult psychology rather than children's behavior. But here's what's fascinating. Your subconscious mind doesn't automatically update your beliefs as you mature. Those early conclusions continue operating like background software, influencing your adult experiences unless you consciously examine and upgrade them. The mirror of external resistance. One of the most reliable ways to identify your hidden limiting beliefs is to pay attention to the external resistance you encounter when pursuing your goals. The law of zero resistance reveals that outer resistance often reflects inner resistance. The obstacles you face in the world frequently mirror obstacles that exist within your own consciousness. You consistently encounter people who don't value your services. Look within for places where you undervalue yourself. If you repeatedly attract romantic partners who aren't emotionally available, examine your own internal availability for intimacy. If doors keep closing despite your best efforts, investigate whether part of you believes you're not supposed to walk through those doors. This doesn't mean that every external challenge reflects internal resistance. Sometimes obstacles arise to redirect you toward better opportunities or to help you develop necessary skills. But when you notice consistent patterns of resistance in specific areas of your life, it's worth exploring what internal beliefs might be creating or attracting those patterns. David was a talented artist who dreamed of supporting himself through his creative work. But every time he tried to sell his art, he encountered discouraging responses. Gallery owners dismissed his work without serious consideration. Potential buyers complained about his prices, and fellow artists seemed unsupportive of his success. Initially, David blamed external circumstances. The art world was too competitive. People didn't appreciate his style. The economy was bad for artists. But when he learned about the law of zero resistance, he began exploring his own beliefs about creativity and commerce. He discovered that he held deep-seated beliefs that real artists shouldn't care about money and that commercializing his art would somehow compromise its integrity. Part of him was unconsciously sabotaging his sales efforts because he believed that wanting financial success made him less authentic as an artist. These internal conflicts were creating external resistance. His ambivalence about selling his work was being reflected back to him through people who weren't interested in buying it. His discomfort with pricing his art was attracting people who questioned his prices. Once David recognized and resolved his internal conflicts about money and creativity, his external experience shifted dramatically. He began attracting collectors who valued his work and paid his full prices without negotiation. Gallery owners started responding more positively to his submissions. Other artists became supportive collaborators rather than competitors. The external world had simply been reflecting his internal state of resistance back to him, the practice of belief archaeology. Dissolving limiting beliefs begins with becoming a skilled archaeologist of your own consciousness, learning to excavate the hidden assumptions that operate below your conscious awareness. This process requires patience, compassion, and detective-like curiosity rather than judgment or force. Start by identifying areas of your life where you experience consistent patterns of limitation or struggle. Instead of focusing on what you want to change externally, ask yourself, what would I have to believe for this pattern to make sense? What assumptions about life, about myself, or about how things work would create this kind of experience? Listen to your internal dialogue throughout the day, particularly when you're facing challenges or considering new possibilities. Notice thoughts like, "That never works for people like me. I could never afford that. I'm not the type of person who..." These casual, automatic thoughts often reveal much deeper belief systems that are creating your experience. Pay attention to your emotional responses to other people's success. If you feel genuinely happy when others achieve what you desire, it suggests you believe those achievements are possible and available. If you feel jealous, bitter, or critical, it might indicate beliefs that there isn't enough success to go around, or that you're somehow excluded from that level of achievement. The goal isn't to judge yourself for having limiting beliefs. Everyone develops them as part of growing up in an imperfect world. The goal is to recognize them so you can consciously choose whether they still serve you. Once you identify a limiting belief, you can begin the process of conscious reprogramming. This isn't about convincing yourself that the opposite is true. It's about recognizing that beliefs are choices rather than facts, and you have the power to choose beliefs that support your dreams rather than limit them. Living in the flow of yes, when you've identified and dissolved the major sources of internal resistance in your consciousness, you enter what I call the flow of yes, a state where the universe's natural response to your clear, unresisted intentions is immediate support and rapid manifestation. In this state, opportunities appear with perfect timing. People say yes to your requests more often than not. Resources become available when you need them, and obstacles resolve themselves before becoming serious problems. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural result of removing the internal contradictions that create external resistance. The flow of yes doesn't mean that you never encounter challenges or that everything happens instantly. It means that you move through challenges with greater ease, and that your manifestations unfold with a sense of natural timing rather than forced effort. Most importantly, when you operate from zero internal resistance, you become available to possibilities that exceed your current imagination. Your limited beliefs don't just block specific manifestations. They limit your ability to perceive opportunities that exist beyond those beliefs. When those limitations dissolve, you often discover that the universe had been offering you gifts that you simply couldn't see while you were operating through the filter of restrictive beliefs. This is your invitation to examine the invisible barriers that may be operating in your own consciousness, not to judge them or force them away, but to recognize them with compassion and choose consciously whether they still serve your highest good. You are far more powerful than any limiting belief you've ever held about yourself. You are more deserving than any unworthiness story you've inherited from others, and you are more capable of creating positive change than any impossibility, belief that tries to convince you otherwise. The law of zero. Resistance reveals that the only permission you need to live your dreams is your own. The only approval required is the approval you give yourself, and the only limitations that can stop you are the ones you continue to accept as true. Feel yourself releasing now any beliefs that have kept you smaller than you truly are, opening to the vast possibilities that become available when you allow yourself to receive all that life wants to give you. Chapter 8. The Seventh Law. The Law of Magnetic Gratitude. Why? Being grateful for what hasn't arrived yet accelerates your manifestations dramatically. The frequency that transforms. Everything gratitude is not just a nice feeling or a spiritual practice that makes you a better person. Gratitude is the most powerful magnetic force in the universe, a vibrational frequency that instantly aligns you with abundance, accelerates your manifestations, and transforms you from someone who wants things into someone who naturally receives them. The law of magnetic gratitude reveals the secret that most people miss about appreciation. Genuine gratitude doesn't wait for something good to happen before it emerges. True gratitude is a state of being that you can choose in any moment, regardless of your current circumstances, and that choice immediately shifts your electromagnetic signature to match the frequency of receiving. Most people have gratitude backwards. They think they'll be grateful when their dreams come true, when they receive what they want, when their problems are solved. But conscious creators understand that gratitude is not a response to good things happening. Gratitude is what causes good things to happen. When you feel genuinely grateful for something that hasn't yet manifested in your physical reality, you create what quantum physicists call field coherence. a perfect alignment between your internal state and your desired external experience. In this state of coherence, the gap between what you want and what you have collapses, because energetically, you're already living in the reality where your desires are fulfilled. This is not positive thinking or wishful denial of current circumstances. This is conscious participation in the fundamental creative mechanism of the universe. The two types of gratitude understanding. The law of magnetic gratitude requires recognizing that there are two completely different types of gratitude available to you, each creating dramatically different results in your life. Conditional gratitude is what most people experience. Appreciation that depends on external circumstances aligning with your preferences. You feel grateful when good things happen, when people treat you well, when your day goes smoothly. This type of gratitude is pleasant when it arises, but it's reactive rather than creative. It responds to your reality instead of creating your reality. Conditional gratitude also tends to be temporary and fragile. When circumstances change or problems arise, the grateful feeling disappears, leaving you back in states of worry, frustration, or want. You're essentially at the mercy of external conditions for your internal experience of abundance. Unconditional gratitude, on the other hand, is a state of being that you consciously choose regardless of your current circumstances. It's appreciation for life itself, for your creative capacity, for the infinite possibilities available to you in every moment. Unconditional gratitude doesn't depend on having what you want. It emerges from recognizing that you already have the most precious gift imaginable, the ability to create new experiences through consciousness. This type of gratitude is magnetic because it broadcasts the signal of abundance even when your physical circumstances might suggest scarcity. When you feel genuinely grateful for your life as it is while simultaneously being excited about what's emerging, you create a vibrational frequency that naturally attracts experiences worthy of appreciation. But here's the most profound aspect of unconditional gratitude. It allows you to feel grateful for your manifestations before they appear in physical form. You can appreciate your perfect relationship while you're still single. Feel thankful for your abundant income while your bank account is still modest. Experience gratitude for your radiant health while your body is still healing. This isn't denial or delusion. It's accessing the quantum realm where your desires already exist as fulfilled realities waiting to collapse into your experienced world. The story of the grateful heart Linda had been struggling financially for 3 years. After her divorce, working 2 part-time jobs just to cover her basic expenses and feeling increasingly bitter about her circumstances, she had tried various manifestation techniques, visualization, affirmations, even hiring expensive coaches. But nothing seemed to shift her financial reality. If anything, focusing on what she wanted but didn't have made her feel more frustrated and desperate. "I can't be grateful for money I don't have," she told me during our first conversation. "That feels like lying to myself. How can I appreciate abundance when I'm barely surviving?" Linda's challenge revealed one of the most common misconceptions about gratitude and manifestation. She thought gratitude required external evidence before it could be authentic. She was waiting for her circumstances to improve so she could feel grateful, not understanding that her feeling state was actually creating her circumstances. The breakthrough came when Linda learned to distinguish between being grateful for her current financial situation and being grateful for her creative capacity to generate new financial experiences. She didn't have to pretend that struggling felt good, but she could appreciate her resilience, her resourcefulness, and her unlimited potential to create positive change. Linda began practicing what I call future-present gratitude, feeling genuinely thankful for the financial abundance that she could sense emerging in her life, even though it hadn't yet manifested in her bank account. Instead of trying to be grateful for her current lack, she learned to appreciate the abundance that was already present in the quantum field of possibilities. This wasn't about forcing positive emotions or denying her current challenges. Linda still took practical action. She looked for better employment, managed her expenses carefully, and addressed her financial situation responsibly. But she did all of this from a state of grateful anticipation rather than desperate struggle. The shift in her emotional state created an immediate shift in her life experiences. Within 2 weeks, a former colleague contacted her about a consulting opportunity that paid more than both her part-time jobs combined. Within 2 months, this consulting work had evolved into a full-time position with benefits and growth potential. Within 6 months, Linda had not only solved her immediate financial challenges, but had begun building the type of career she had always wanted. But the most remarkable change was internal. Linda had transformed from someone who felt victimized by circumstances into someone who felt empowered to create positive change. She had learned that gratitude wasn't something that happened to her when life went well. It was something she could generate to make life go well. The science of appreciation, the HeartMath Institute's research has revealed the profound physiological effects of genuine appreciation on human biology. When you experience authentic gratitude, your heart rhythm immediately becomes coherent, a smooth, ordered pattern that optimizes cardiovascular function and synchronizes your entire nervous system. This heart coherence isn't just beneficial for your health. It creates a measurable electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond your physical body. This field of coherent energy affects not only your own cellular regeneration and immune function, but also influences the people and circumstances around you. Dr. Roland McCraty's studies show that when you sustain coherent heart rhythms through appreciation, you literally become a source of coherent energy that others can entrain with. People in your presence unconsciously begin to synchronize their own heart rhythms with yours, creating states of increased intuition, emotional balance, and creative insight. But the implications for manifestation are even more extraordinary. When your heart is in coherent rhythm, your brain begins producing different brainwave patterns associated with heightened creativity, expanded perception, and accelerated learning. In this state, you become more sensitive to opportunities, more attractive to positive circumstances, and more capable of recognizing solutions that were previously invisible to you. This research validates what ancient traditions have always taught. An appreciative heart is the most powerful tool for creating positive change in your life. That same conclusion would be illogical for an adult who understands that relationship dynamics are complex and that parental choices reflect adult psychology rather than children's behavior. But here's what's fascinating. Your subconscious mind doesn't automatically update your beliefs as you mature. Those early conclusions continue operating like background software, influencing your adult experiences unless you consciously examine and upgrade them. The mirror of external resistance. One of the most reliable ways to identify your hidden limiting beliefs is to pay attention to the external resistance you encounter when pursuing your goals. The law of zero resistance reveals that outer resistance often reflects inner resistance. The obstacles you face in the world frequently mirror obstacles that exist within your own consciousness. You consistently encounter people who don't value your services. Look within for places where you undervalue yourself. If you repeatedly attract romantic partners who aren't emotionally available, examine your own internal availability for intimacy. If doors keep closing despite your best efforts, investigate whether part of you believes you're not supposed to walk through those doors. This doesn't mean that every external challenge reflects internal resistance. Sometimes obstacles arise to redirect you toward better opportunities or to help you develop necessary skills. But when you notice consistent patterns of resistance in specific areas of your life, it's worth exploring what internal beliefs might be creating or attracting those patterns. David was a talented artist who dreamed of supporting himself through his creative work. But every time he tried to sell his art, he encountered discouraging responses. Gallery owners dismissed his work without serious consideration. Potential buyers complained about his prices, and fellow artists seemed unsupportive of his success. Initially, David blamed external circumstances. The art world was too competitive. People didn't appreciate his style. The economy was bad for artists. But when he learned about the law of zero resistance, he began exploring his own beliefs about creativity and commerce. He discovered that he held deep-seated beliefs that real artists shouldn't care about money, and that commercializing his art would somehow compromise its integrity. Part of him was unconsciously sabotaging his sales efforts because he believed that wanting financial success made him less authentic as an artist. These internal conflicts were creating external resistance. His ambivalence about selling his work was being reflected back to him through people who weren't interested in buying it. His discomfort with pricing his art was attracting people who questioned his prices. Once David recognized and resolved his internal conflicts about money and creativity, his external experience shifted dramatically. He began attracting collectors who valued his work and paid his full prices without negotiation. Gallery owners started responding more positively to his submissions. Other artists became supportive collaborators rather than competitors. The external world had simply been reflecting his internal state of resistance back to him, the practice of belief archaeology. Dissolving limiting beliefs begins with becoming a skilled archaeologist of your own consciousness, learning to excavate the hidden assumptions that operate below your conscious awareness. This process requires patience, compassion, and detective-like curiosity rather than judgment or force. Start by identifying areas of your life where you experience consistent patterns of limitation or struggle. Instead of focusing on what you want to change externally, ask yourself, what would I have to believe for this pattern to make sense? What assumptions about life, about myself, or about how things work would create this kind of experience? Listen to your internal dialogue throughout the day, particularly when you're facing challenges or considering new possibilities. Notice thoughts like, "That never works for people like me. I could never afford that. I'm not the type of person who..." These casual, automatic thoughts often reveal much deeper belief systems that are creating your experience. Pay attention to your emotional responses to other people's success. If you feel genuinely happy when others achieve what you desire, it suggests you believe those achievements are possible and available. If you feel jealous, bitter, or critical, it might indicate beliefs that there isn't enough success to go around, or that you're somehow excluded from that level of achievement. The goal isn't to judge yourself for having limiting beliefs. Everyone develops them as part of growing up in an imperfect world. The goal is to recognize them so you can consciously choose whether they still serve you. Once you identify a limiting belief, you can begin the process of conscious reprogramming. This isn't about convincing yourself that the opposite is true. It's about recognizing that beliefs are choices rather than facts, and you have the power to choose beliefs that support your dreams rather than limit them. Living in the flow of yes, when you've identified and dissolved the major sources of internal resistance in your consciousness, you enter what I call the flow of yes, a state where the universe's natural response to your clear, unresisted intentions is immediate support and rapid manifestation. In this state, opportunities appear with perfect timing. People say yes to your requests more often than not. Resources become available when you need them, and obstacles resolve themselves before becoming serious problems. This isn't magical thinking. It's the natural result of removing the internal contradictions that create external resistance. The flow of yes doesn't mean that you never encounter challenges or that everything happens instantly. It means that you move through challenges with greater ease, and that your manifestations unfold with a sense of natural timing rather than forced effort. Most importantly, when you operate from zero internal resistance, you become available to possibilities that exceed your current imagination. Your limited beliefs don't just block specific manifestations. They limit your ability to perceive opportunities that exist beyond those beliefs. When those limitations dissolve, you often discover that the universe had been offering you gifts that you simply couldn't see while you were operating through the filter of restrictive beliefs. This is your invitation to examine the invisible barriers that may be operating in your own consciousness, not to judge them or force them away, but to recognize them with compassion and choose consciously whether they still serve your highest good. You are far more powerful than any limiting belief you've ever held about yourself. You are more deserving than any unworthiness story you've inherited from others, and you are more capable of creating positive change than any impossibility, belief that tries to convince you otherwise. The law of zero. Resistance reveals that the only permission you need to live your dreams is your own. The only approval required is the approval you give yourself, and the only limitations that can stop you are the ones you continue to accept as true. Feel yourself releasing now any beliefs that have kept you smaller than you truly are, opening to the vast possibilities that become available when you allow yourself to receive all that life wants to give you. Chapter 9. The Alchemical Transformation. How to integrate all 7 laws into a complete methodology of conscious creation. The symphony of creation. You have now been introduced to the 7 fundamental laws that govern the creation of reality. Like notes in a musical scale, each law carries its own frequency and power. But just as a single note cannot create a symphony, working with individual laws cannot unlock your full creative potential. True mastery emerges when you learn to orchestrate all 7 laws together, creating a harmonious system that transforms you from someone who occasionally manifests desired outcomes into someone who lives in a constant state of conscious creation. The journey from unconscious creation to conscious creation is not merely about learning new techniques. It's about undergoing a profound alchemical transformation. Ancient alchemists sought to transform base metals into gold, but they understood that this outer transformation was only possible through an inner transformation of consciousness. You are now ready to undergo this same metamorphosis, converting the base metal of unconscious victimhood into the pure gold of conscious creatorship. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, and it's not a linear process. Like a musician learning to play a complex symphony, you'll begin by practicing individual movements until they become natural, then gradually learn to blend them into an integrated performance that flows with effortless mastery. The 7 laws you've discovered are not separate, unrelated principles. They are interconnected aspects of a single creative intelligence expressing itself through your consciousness. When you learn to operate them as a unified system, you don't just improve your manifestation abilities, you become a completely different type of being, someone who lives in constant collaboration with the creative force of the universe. The natural sequence of creation, understanding. How to integrate the 7 laws begins with recognizing that they operate in a natural sequence, each one building upon and enhancing the others. This is not a rigid formula that must be followed mechanically, but rather an organic flow that mirrors the way consciousness naturally creates reality. The sequence begins with the law of the creative mind, where you become conscious of your thoughts and learn to direct your mental energy toward desired outcomes rather than default patterns. This is your foundation. Without conscious direction of thought, the other laws cannot operate effectively because you'll be broadcasting mixed signals into the quantum field. The second movement involves the law of emotional vibration, where you learn to generate and sustain the emotional frequencies that match your desired reality. Thought provides direction, but emotion provides the power that actually moves energy in the quantum field. Together, these first 2 laws create what I call coherent intention, a unified signal that the universe can clearly receive and respond to. The third movement activates the law of energetic correspondence, where you begin to recognize how your internal states are reflected in your external circumstances. This awareness allows you to use your life experiences as feedback for your consciousness evolution, constantly refining your internal alignment to create better external results. The fourth movement engages the law of quantum time, where you learn to collapse desired future realities into present moment experience. Instead of projecting your power into an imagined future, you begin to inhabit your desired reality now at the level of consciousness and energy. The fifth movement flows through the law of inspired action, where you take physical steps that are aligned with your elevated internal state. Your actions become expressions of your transformed consciousness, rather than efforts to force outcomes through willpower alone. The sixth movement clears the pathway through the law of zero resistance, where you identify and dissolve the limiting beliefs that create internal contradictions and external obstacles. This creates a clear channel for your intentions to manifest without interference from unconscious programming. The seventh movement completes the symphony through the law of magnetic gratitude, where you sustain a frequency of appreciation that magnetizes experiences worthy of your gratitude. Gratitude becomes both the culmination of the creative process and the foundation for the next cycle of manifestation. The 4 stages of integration mastering. This integrated approach to conscious creation typically unfolds through 4 distinct stages, each representing a deeper level of embodiment and effectiveness. The first stage is mechanical application, where you consciously work with each law separately, learning to recognize when and how to apply specific principles. At this stage, manifestation feels like work because you're still operating primarily from your thinking mind, trying to remember which technique to use and when to use it. Results are often inconsistent because you're not yet fluent in the natural flow of creative consciousness. This stage is necessary and valuable. It's like learning individual piano scales before attempting to play complex pieces. Don't judge yourself for being in mechanical application, and don't rush to move beyond it. Take time to understand each law thoroughly and practice applying them until they become familiar and natural. The second stage is intuitive integration, where you begin to sense which laws need attention in any given situation without having to consciously analyze or decide. You might find yourself naturally shifting your emotional state when you notice resistance arising, or spontaneously feeling grateful for manifestations that haven't yet appeared. The laws begin to work together more fluidly because you're operating from feeling and intuition rather than just mental understanding. At this stage, manifestation starts to feel more natural and enjoyable. You're beginning to think less and flow more, trust more, and force less. Results become more consistent and often exceed your specific expectations because you're allowing the intelligence of the universe to participate more fully in your creative process. The third stage is embodied mastery, where working with the 7 laws becomes as natural as breathing. You no longer have to think about applying them because they've become integrated into your way of being. You automatically think aligned thoughts, feel elevated emotions, take inspired actions, and maintain appreciative states because this has become your natural identity rather than something you do. At this stage, people often comment that you seem different, more magnetic, more peaceful, more confident, or more alive. This is because you've undergone the fundamental transformation from someone who tries to manifest things into someone who naturally expresses the frequency of having things. Your external results reflect this internal shift through increased ease, accelerated timing, and manifestations that often surprise you with their perfection. The fourth stage is transcendent creation, where you recognize that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are a unique expression of it. At this level, the distinction between creator and creation dissolves, and you begin to participate consciously in the evolution of consciousness itself. Your individual manifestations become expressions of a larger purpose that serves not just your personal fulfillment, but the elevation of collective awareness. This is the stage where true miracles become commonplace, where your presence alone begins to uplift and transform others, and where your life becomes a demonstration of what's possible for human consciousness when it remembers its true nature. The story of complete transformation. To understand how these 4 stages unfold in real life, let me share the story of Patricia, a woman who underwent a complete alchemical transformation over the course of 18 months. When Patricia first encountered these principles, she was struggling with depression, financial instability, and a deep sense that her life had no meaningful purpose. She had tried therapy, medication, and various self-help approaches with limited success. She felt like a victim of circumstances beyond her control and had little hope that real change was possible. Patricia began in mechanical application, dutifully practicing individual techniques, but seeing minimal results. She would visualize her ideal life for 10 minutes each morning, then spend the rest of the day thinking anxious thoughts about her current problems. She tried to maintain positive emotions but found herself constantly slipping back into worry and frustration. She understood the concepts intellectually but couldn't seem to embody them consistently. After 3 months of inconsistent results, Patricia was ready to give up. But something inside her knew these principles contained truth, even if she wasn't yet accessing their full power. Instead of abandoning the work, she decided to focus on just one area of her life, her relationship with her body and health, and apply all 7 laws to that single area with complete commitment. This focused approach marked her transition into intuitive integration. Instead of trying to transform everything at once, Patricia learned to sense what her body needed and wanted, both physically and energetically. She began thinking appreciative thoughts about her body's intelligence and resilience. She started feeling genuinely grateful for her body's constant service, even while acknowledging areas that needed healing. She began taking inspired actions, choosing foods that made her feel energized rather than foods she thought she should eat, moving in ways that felt joyful, rather than forcing herself through exercise routines she hated. She identified and dissolved beliefs about aging, genetics, and health that had been creating resistance to her body's natural healing capacity. Within 6 months, Patricia had lost 40 pounds without dieting, resolved chronic digestive issues that had plagued her for years, and developed a relationship with her body based on love and appreciation rather than criticism and neglect. But more importantly, she had learned to work with the 7 laws intuitively rather than mechanically. This success gave her the confidence to apply the same integrated approach to her finances. Using the same principles that had transformed her health, Patricia began shifting her relationship with money from scarcity and anxiety to appreciation and trust. She started a small online business based on skills she had developed as a hobby, not because she needed money desperately, but because she felt inspired to share her knowledge with others. Within a year, this inspired action had evolved into a 6-figure business that supported her completely while feeling more like creative expression than work. Patricia had entered the stage of embodied mastery. She was no longer consciously applying the 7 laws. She was living them, but the most profound transformation came in her sense of purpose and connection to life itself. As Patricia's external circumstances reflected her internal transformation, she began to understand that her individual healing was part of a larger pattern of awakening happening throughout humanity. She recognized that by becoming whole and conscious herself, she was contributing to the healing of the collective. This recognition initiated her transition into transcendent creation. Patricia's business evolved from simply sharing her knowledge to consciously serving the evolution of consciousness through her work. She began to see every interaction, every challenge, and every success as opportunities to express love, wisdom, and creative possibility in the world. Today, Patricia radiates a quality of presence that transforms everyone around her. Her life has become a living demonstration of what's possible when someone fully embodies these principles. But perhaps most remarkably, she accomplished this transformation while dealing with the same external challenges that once overwhelmed her. She simply learned to relate to those challenges from a completely different level of consciousness. Your daily practice of alchemical creation, creating lasting transformation through the 7 laws, requires establishing a daily practice that keeps you aligned with conscious creation rather than defaulting back to unconscious patterns. This practice doesn't need to be complicated or time-consuming, but it does need to be consistent and genuine. Begin each day with what I call the morning alignment, a few minutes of consciously setting your creative frequency before engaging with external demands. Start by directing your thoughts toward what you want to create, rather than what you're worried about. Generate the emotions you would feel if your desires were already fulfilled. Feel grateful for your creative capacity and the opportunities available to you today. Throughout your day, practice conscious check-ins, where you briefly pause to notice your internal state and make adjustments if needed. Are your thoughts aligned with your desires or scattered in worry? Are your emotions elevated and appreciative or contracted and resistant? Are you taking actions from inspiration or from obligation? These check-ins aren't about judging yourself when you find yourself off track. They're about gently redirecting your energy toward creation rather than reaction. Each time you make this conscious choice, you strengthen your identity as a conscious creator rather than an unconscious victim. End each day with evening integration, where you acknowledge the day's experiences as reflections of your consciousness and opportunities for growth. Notice where you operated from conscious creation and appreciate those moments. Notice where you fell into old patterns and learn from those experiences without self-judgment. Most importantly, feel genuine gratitude for your journey of transformation, recognizing that every experience, pleasant or challenging, is serving your evolution into greater consciousness and creative power. This daily practice creates what I call conscious momentum, a building energy that makes conscious creation increasingly natural and automatic. Over time, you won't have to remember to think aligned thoughts or feel elevated emotions, because this will become your natural way of being. The ripple effect of personal transformation. You undergo this alchemical transformation from unconscious victim to conscious creator. You'll begin to notice that your personal evolution has effects that extend far beyond your individual life. Your elevated consciousness creates what scientists call field effects that positively influence everyone around you, often in ways you may never consciously recognize. When you operate from the integrated 7 laws, you become what physicist David Bohm called a source of coherence in the field of consciousness. Your presence alone begins to help others access higher states of awareness, creativity, and possibility. People feel better when they're around you, not because you're trying to help them, but because your coherent energy field naturally supports their own coherence. This is why personal transformation is actually a service to humanity. Every person who evolves from unconscious reaction to conscious creation contributes to the elevation of collective awareness. Your individual healing helps heal the world, not as a metaphor, but as a measurable reality. As more people undergo this transformation, we reach what Rupert Sheldrake calls critical mass, the point where new patterns of consciousness become available to everyone through what he terms morphic resonance. The path that once required tremendous individual effort becomes increasingly natural and accessible to others. You are not just transforming your own life through these principles. You are participating in the conscious evolution of human awareness itself. Your commitment to living these laws contributes to a future where conscious creation becomes the norm rather than the exception, where humans remember their true nature as creative beings rather than victims of circumstance. Your invitation to mastery as we conclude this exploration of integrative practice, I want you to understand that you now possess the complete technology for conscious creation. You have learned the 7 fundamental laws that govern reality formation, discovered how they work together as an integrated system, and understood the stages through which mastery naturally unfolds. But knowledge alone is not transformation. Information without application remains mere intellectual entertainment. The principles you've discovered will only change your life if you consistently apply them until they become integrated into your natural way of being. This doesn't require perfection or endless effort. It requires patience with yourself as you learn, consistency in your daily practice, and trust in the natural process of consciousness evolution. Some days you'll feel like a master creator. Other days you'll feel like a beginner. Both experiences are part of the journey. What matters is not whether you apply these principles perfectly, but whether you apply them consistently. Every time you choose a conscious thought over an unconscious reaction, every time you generate an elevated emotion rather than defaulting to survival chemistry, every time you take inspired action instead of forced effort, you strengthen your identity as a conscious creator. The transformation from unconscious victim to conscious creator is not a destination you arrive at. It's a continuous process of choosing consciousness over unconsciousness, love over fear, creation over reaction. Each choice you make in favor of conscious creation builds momentum for the next choice, until living this way becomes as natural as breathing. You have everything you need to undergo this alchemical transformation. The 7 laws are not theories to understand. They are living principles waiting to express through your consciousness and create miracles in your life. The only question is, are you ready to stop being someone who hopes for change and become someone who consciously creates it? Feel yourself embracing now this invitation to mastery, knowing that you have the power to transform not only your own life, but to contribute to the conscious evolution of all humanity through your willingness to live as the creative being you truly are. Chapter 10. Born into a new reality. Your invitation to live as the supernatural being you truly are, the end. That is really a beginning. You have reached the end of this book, but you are standing at the beginning of an entirely new way of existing. The forgotten laws are forgotten no more. The hidden truths have been revealed. The technology of consciousness that was once available only to a select few is now in your possession. But more than that, you have begun to remember who you really are. You are not a human being having occasional spiritual experiences. You are a supernatural being temporarily exploring what it's like to be human. You are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are a unique expression of it, endowed with the same creative capacity that brings galaxies into being and orchestrates the dance of atoms within every cell of your body. For too long, humanity has lived under a collective hypnosis that convinced us we were powerless victims of circumstance, limited by our genetics, bound by our past, and at the mercy of forces beyond our control. But this hypnosis is breaking. Around the world, millions of people are awakening to their true creative nature. They are discovering that the limitations they accepted as reality were actually beliefs they inherited from others who had forgotten their own power. You are part of this great awakening. By learning these 7 laws, you have joined the ranks of conscious creators who are literally transforming the world through their elevated consciousness. You are not just improving your personal life. You are contributing to the birth of a new era of human possibility. Living as a conscious creator in an unconscious world, you integrate these principles more fully into your daily life. You may sometimes feel like you're living in 2 different worlds. There's the world of unconscious creation that most people inhabit, where limitation seems real, where struggle appears necessary, where people feel powerless to change their circumstances. And then there's the world of conscious creation that you're now entering, where infinite possibility is recognized as the fundamental nature of reality. Living between these worlds requires developing what I call compassionate mastery, the ability to operate from conscious creation principles while remaining understanding and patient with those who haven't yet awakened to these possibilities. You will meet people who are deeply invested in their victim stories, who argue for their limitations, who insist that what you're experiencing is impossible or naive. Your role is not to convince them otherwise. Your role is to live as a demonstration of what's possible when someone remembers their creative power. Some people will be inspired by your transformation and ask how you've changed so dramatically. Others will be uncomfortable with your evolution because it challenges their own beliefs about what's possible. Remember that everyone is exactly where they need to be in their own consciousness journey. You were once where they are now. You once believed the same limiting stories about reality that now seem so obviously false. Have compassion for their current level of understanding while remaining committed to your own continued evolution. The most powerful way to serve others is to continue becoming more conscious yourself. Every time you choose love over fear, creation over reaction, possibility over limitation, You add to the field of conscious awareness that makes it easier for others to make similar choices. You are not responsible for awakening others, but you are responsible for staying awake yourself. The New Human Template. What you've learned in this book isn't just a collection of manifestation techniques. It's a blueprint for a new way of being human. You represent an evolutionary leap in human consciousness, a bridge between the old paradigm of struggle and limitation and the new paradigm of conscious creation and unlimited possibility. The old human template was based on survival consciousness, competing for scarce resources, protecting against imagined threats, accumulating possessions and achievements to create security in an unpredictable world. This template served humanity during our species' early development, but it has outlived its usefulness. In fact, continuing to operate from this outdated programming now threatens our survival rather than ensuring it. The New Human Template is based on creation consciousness, recognizing abundance as the fundamental nature of reality, understanding that security comes from alignment with universal intelligence, rather than accumulation of external things, knowing that true fulfillment comes from expressing your authentic gifts rather than competing for limited resources. You are embodying this new template. Every time you manifest something through consciousness rather than force, every time you resolve a conflict through love rather than power, every time you create abundance through appreciation rather than accumulation, you are demonstrating what the next stage of human evolution looks like. This is why your personal transformation matters so much. You're not just improving your individual life. You're helping to birth a new species of human being, a species that remembers its creative power, operates from love rather than fear, and works in harmony with natural and universal laws rather than fighting against them. Future generations will look back on this time as the period when humanity graduated from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. You are among the first to make this transition, and your example makes it easier for millions of others to follow. The story of two futures. Standing at this moment in history, humanity faces two possible futures, and the choices we make individually and collectively over the next decades will determine which future becomes our reality. The first future is what we might call more of the same, a continuation of the old paradigm, where humans remain unconscious of their creative power, where limitation and struggle are accepted as natural, where people compete for resources rather than recognizing the abundance that surrounds us. In this future, we continue to create problems through unconscious thinking and then try to solve those problems through force and manipulation rather than consciousness. This future isn't inherently evil or wrong, it's simply unconscious. It's what happens when beings with creative power use that power without awareness of what they're doing. It leads to increasing complexity, conflict, and chaos as unconscious creations collide with each other in unpredictable ways. The second future we might call the Great Awakening, a timeline where enough humans remember their creative nature that conscious creation becomes the dominant mode of operation on our planet. In this future, we solve challenges through elevated consciousness rather than force. We create abundance through appreciation and alignment rather than extraction and exploitation. We work with natural laws rather than against them. In this future, what we now consider miracles become commonplace. Healing happens through consciousness as much as through medical intervention. Environmental challenges resolve through humanity's alignment with natural intelligence. Conflicts dissolve as people recognize their fundamental interconnection rather than their apparent separation. This isn't a utopian fantasy. It's a realistic possibility based on the natural evolution of consciousness. Every person who awakens to their Creative power moves the collective probability toward this more harmonious future. The future that manifests depends entirely on how many people choose conscious creation over unconscious reaction. It depends on how many people choose love over fear, possibility over limitation, collaboration over competition. It depends, in part, on you, your mission as a conscious creator. You now carry a profound responsibility, but it's a joyful responsibility rather than a burdensome one. You have been entrusted with knowledge that can transform not only your individual life, but also contribute to the healing and evolution of our entire planet. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to live these principles so completely that you become a walking demonstration of what's possible for human consciousness, not through preaching or trying to convince others, but through the quiet power of embodied transformation. When you heal your relationship with money, you contribute to healing the collective consciousness around abundance and scarcity. When you create loving relationships through self-love and appreciation, you add to the field of love that makes it easier for others to experience healthy relationships. When you manifest perfect health through consciousness, you demonstrate that the body can heal itself when given proper energetic and emotional support. Every conscious choice you make strengthens the morphic field of awakened humanity. Every limitation you transcend makes it easier for others to transcend similar limitations. Every fear you transform into love adds to the collective courage that allows our species to evolve beyond fear-based thinking. But your mission is not to sacrifice your personal happiness for the greater good. Quite the opposite. Your mission is to become so fulfilled, so abundant, so loving, and so creative that your very existence becomes an invitation for others to remember their own possibilities. The most powerful way you can serve the world is to become completely yourself, not the small, limited, fearful version of yourself that you inherited from unconscious conditioning, but the magnificent, creative, unlimited being that you truly are. This is not selfish. It's sacred. When you live from your highest possibilities, you give others permission to live from theirs. When you refuse to accept limitation as necessary, you challenge the collective agreement that struggle is inevitable. When you embody love, joy, creativity, and abundance, you prove that these states are available to anyone willing to choose them. The infinite journey of becoming as you continue to live and integrate these 7 laws. Remember that mastery is not a destination. It's a continuously unfolding journey of becoming. There will always be new levels of consciousness to explore, new creative possibilities to embody, new ways to express love and serve the evolution of awareness. You may sometimes feel like you've mastered these principles only to encounter a situation that challenges you in ways you hadn't experienced before. This isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of growth. Every challenge is consciousness, offering you the opportunity to expand into an even more empowered version of yourself. The path of conscious creation is not about achieving perfection. It's about embracing continuous evolution. You're not trying to reach some final state where you never experience problems or challenges. You're learning to meet every experience from an increasingly conscious and creative perspective. Some days you'll feel like you're flying, effortlessly manifesting whatever you desire, and feeling deeply connected to the flow of universal intelligence. Other days you'll feel human, dealing with practical challenges and emotional responses just like everyone else. Both experiences are part of the journey. What matters is not whether you always operate from the highest level of consciousness, but whether you're committed to returning to that level whenever you notice you've drifted away from it. Each time you choose conscious creation over unconscious reaction, you strengthen your identity as a supernatural being having a human experience rather than a human being hoping for supernatural intervention. The journey never ends because consciousness itself is infinite. There are always new realms to explore, new gifts to develop, new ways to express the love and creativity that you are. This isn't a burden. It's the greatest adventure possible. Your legacy of transformation. Imagine for a moment what the world will look like when the principles you've learned become common knowledge. Imagine educational systems that teach children about their creative power alongside reading and mathematics. Imagine healthcare that addresses consciousness and energy as well as physical symptoms. Imagine economic systems based on abundance and sharing rather than scarcity and hoarding. Imagine governments led by people who understand that consciousness creates reality and who make decisions from wisdom and love rather than fear and control. Imagine communities where people support each other's highest evolution rather than competing for limited resources. Imagine a planet where humans work in harmony with natural intelligence rather than exploiting and destroying the environment. This vision isn't a distant dream. It's an emerging reality that becomes more probable every time someone like you chooses consciousness over unconsciousness. Your personal transformation is part of a global shift that's happening right now. In this lifetime, in this historical moment, the children being born today will inherit the world that we create through our collective consciousness. They will either inherit a world based on the old paradigm of limitation and struggle, or they will inherit a world based on the new paradigm of conscious creation and unlimited possibility. Your commitment to living these principles ensures that future generations will have access to the knowledge and consciousness necessary to create a world beyond our current imagination. Your transformation today becomes their foundation tomorrow. This is your legacy, not just the personal abundance, love, and fulfillment you create for yourself, but the elevation of human consciousness that your awakening contributes to. Every limitation you transcend makes it easier for countless others to transcend similar limitations. Every fear you transform into love adds to the collective healing of our species. You may never know all the lives you touch through your commitment to conscious evolution, but your influence ripples out through the field of consciousness in ways that extend far beyond your personal sphere. The choice that changes everything. As we reach the conclusion of this journey together, you stand at the most important choice point of your life. You can return to unconscious creation, forgetting what you've learned and accepting limitation as necessary. Or you can commit fully to the path of conscious creation, choosing to embody these principles until they become your natural way of being. This choice will determine not only the quality of your personal experience, but also the contribution you make to the collective evolution of human consciousness. It will determine whether you spend your remaining years reacting to life or creating life, whether you experience yourself as victim or creator, whether you add to the problems of the world or become part of the solution. But here's what I know about you. You wouldn't have made it to the end of this book if you weren't ready to choose conscious creation. Something deep within you recognizes these principles as true. Something in your soul remembers that this is who you really are. Something in your heart knows that you came to this lifetime to participate in this great awakening. You are ready. You have always been ready. The only question is whether you will trust yourself enough to step fully into the magnificent being you were always meant to be. The forgotten laws are no longer forgotten. The hidden truths have been revealed. The technology of consciousness is now yours to use. But more than that, you now remember that you are not separate from the creative force of the universe. You are it, expressing itself as you, through you, and for you. This is not the end of your journey into conscious creation. It's your graduation into a lifetime of supernatural living. You have everything you need to create any reality you can imagine. You have the power to heal any limitation, manifest any dream, and contribute to the healing of our world. The only question remaining is, what will you choose to create? Feel yourself now fully accepting this invitation to live as the supernatural being you truly are, knowing that you have the power to transform not only your own life, but to contribute to the conscious evolution of all humanity through your willingness to embody the magnificent truth of who you really are, the beginning of everything. Welcome to your new reality. Welcome to conscious creation. Welcome to the life you came here to live. The universe is waiting to see what you will create next.